There we are. Look at that. Welcome, everybody, to Hash Church, Season 11, Episode 6. I called this the Aftermath episode because it is very, very, very soon after Skunkman Sam's passing. And of course, we're going to be talking about him today. I had no real plans for the show today. It did kind of give me some technical difficulties again today. It did not allow me to go live on the actual page that I was supposed to go live on. So a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're good to go here. I want to start off by giving a big shout out to our sponsor, Heritage Seed Bank. At Heritage Seed Bank, they're not just distributors, they're passionate cultivators and preservers of cannabis heritage with decades of breeding experience. They collaborate closely with top breeders to offer only the highest quality genetics. Their goal is to empower all growers with access to the world's best genetics, knowledge, and support, ensuring cannabis remains diverse, potent, and most importantly, accessible. They pride themselves on ethics, integrity, and transparency, and working only with reputable breeders for ethically sourced top standard seeds. They offer exclusive, hard to find cannabis seeds with unmatched customer service, including fair pricing and accurate information. And they're going to ensure fast, secure, discreet worldwide shipping with stealth packaging for international orders, free replacement for poor germination or dissatisfaction, and prioritize client satisfaction. At Heritage Seed Bank, they build lasting relationships supporting growers and upholding the tradition of exceptional cannabis cultivation. You guys can use the discount code HashChurch15. That's going to give you 15% off. And I will tell you, from the short amount of time I've been working with Sean from Heritage Seeds, he's got actual integrity. I was told recently that a gentleman that owns a seed bank was doing some real nefarious shit and hurting women and some other things, and he found out about it and immediately pulled the stock, even though he was going to end up swallowing thousands of dollars. He pulled that stock because he actually does have integrity. So if you guys can are looking for genetics, he's got Lit Farms, Alien Labs, he's got Archive, he's about to have Chimera. So there's another great reason to support that. And now, without further ado, we are going to bring in the whole crew here. I've got people waiting for links. I'm going to invite Colin in real quick, and then we'll get this hash church started. And yes, I'm not going to lie. Oh, it feels weird to do Hash Church without Skunkman Sam. And congratulations to Tom and Kiana, who just had their baby. The Dragonfly Earth Medicine just sent me that medicine, or that message, which I suspect is medicine in its own right. And we're gonna let some folks in here real quick and see what we can't get done here. Let me see. Got to turn those videos on, boys, and then I can add you in. How's it going, guys?
What's up,
Oh, I
dude?
can.
Be a
Is that?
second.
I can see Robert now. I just can't hear him yet. We're getting close, Robert. You are on Hat Church, bro. But I can't hear you. We gotta turn you on. You got the video. We can't hear you. Can you guys hear me? And then Colin and Ryan and Wade all have their cameras off. There's Colin. We're gonna have to troubleshoot with the good brother Robert, who is he's talking, but we can't hear him. He might have to pick his microphone. So shout out to everyone in the room right now. We got 165 people: Savvy Terps, Tara Lee, John Maddox, Ned Denver, Bingo Lombardi holding it down. Boston Deadhead says, get in the fucking cab. Get in the fucking cab now. Right, Boston Deadhead? Be honest. That's what you sound like. And I appreciate you for that. I think I can hear Wade.
Yes, Wade is here.
Wade
Happy
is here.
about it. Hey there.
Good brother.
Looking forward to today's session.
Yeah, it's the aftermath, really. I mean, I feel like I've just been I don't even know how to explain it. Just like run through a tumbler for like a week straight, just tumbled and tumbled and tumbled. I don't have the farm that Robert has in Barcelona or Spain. Sorry, he's not in Barcelona.
Wow.
To go and hang out with the cows and the oranges. We have to figure out a way to get Robert's voice through. I think
Can
we
you
got to
hear
go
me?
into the odd. Oh, now I can.
Can you hear
Now I,
me?
dude.
I'm here, you guys. I'm
Oh,
here. I'm on
dude.
Hash Church.
Dude, this is
I
amazing, bro. You're
I
like
love
probably the person that should have been on Hash Church 10 years ago, and you've just always been holding it down in the chat.
I know, man. You guys, I love you all. You know this. Marcus, thank you so much for doing this for so many years. I mean, it's just you guys, we have become a family. You know that? I know that many of you don't know who I am. I will introduce you as me, Robert Lee Carroll, who does live in Spain. I'll give you a real quick summary of me. I came to Spain here partially because I did lose my daughter to growing cannabis, and I feared for my life. I feared for going to prison for all those years, guys, and I had some really hard decisions to make. I came here, and life is very strange. It slams the door shut on you in one way, and in other ways, such as finding David Watson and meeting many of my mentors, such as Robert Clark and others, really helped me become who I am, I guess. And gosh, I just want to share with you guys some of the love that we all shared for Skunkman Sam and his incredible family, Diana and Maya and Haley, and of course her daughter Sienna. My love goes out to you guys big time, and yeah, they kind of welcomed me into their family, so to speak, and I really had just nothing but love for them and for you, Marcus, for really bringing so many of us together is what you've done. I spoke with Marcus, everybody, just a small time back, and I told him, I said, you guys think of Marcus as kind of like a Jesus, and he laughed. He laughed, but it's really kind of true. I mean, we want to all help. We want to all kind of you know give something back, and Marcus, what you've done really is give back in a manner that is really helped all of us come together, even now during these hard, difficult times. I find myself reaching out to some of Dave's other friends whom we've known about each other, and now we kind of have made a connection, and that's what it's all about. That's what David would have wanted. He would have not wanted us to stay put. He would have wanted us to follow in his footsteps. The thing that I had in common with David, you guys, is that I was a farmer, a grower, okay? And David loved to grow. He loved the whole process of farming, genetics, living soil, not just with cannabis, guys, but with all plants, with many vegetables. Sweet corn was a passion of his. He loved tomatoes as well. And he had an incredible greenhouse of which he not only grew cannabis, but all of these other things. And it helps to grow better cannabis once you learn how to grow some of these other things. And we can apply all our knowledge of cannabis growing to vegetables and to fruits and thanks, guys. I really just want to send out my love to you guys and show you that here in Spain, we're gonna keep going with David's vision. He wanted to come here. He did come here, not to live, um, as was originally maybe in his plans, but he was coming here often and renting and loved Spain. So, cheers from Spain, guys. I want to hear more of your stories and what you guys are doing. I want to say hi to all the Hash family and much love, guys.
Well, cheers to you, Robert. What a great surprise to have you in. You don't even know it, but you are absolutely one of my favorite people in the whole world. I can't even remember how long ago we met, but I remember when I
Years.
met you. You were like this sort of like David Lee Roth character. You had a real David Lee Roth vibe to you. And
Oh yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
remember like maybe a year into knowing you, I was like, dude, like, where do you get those clothes? And you're like, these are his clothes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? He's like, I bought these. They're David Lee Roth's clothes
Yes.
from Van Halen. I was like, what the fuck, dude? This guy is off the charts. And then truly, in 2014, you went above and beyond because in 2014 in Barcelona, Tony V and myself threw a Blue River party. It was the first and only Blue
Mhm.
River party that ever got done. We had
Oh
someone made a Blue
yes.
River terpene cake. That's where we coined the term the terp champagne, which of course for us, there was no alcohol. We just took a really nice bubbly water and we put some of those lemon trees and some,
So
like
nice.
just beautiful different terps in there. And we had this whole experience. Well, Robert shows up. Tony and I have like nothing to smoke. We barely have a gram of hash between us. Robert shows up with, fuck, I want to say it was a plate full of rosin.
Yes.
A
Yes, it
plate full of
was.
rosin. And I mean like the loudest, most outrageous, like living soil, fully like just developed and matured. I mean, it was the bomb. And listen, the bomb shows up. I'm sure many of you see the bomb on a daily basis. But to have a plate of it show up and Robert go, no, 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 no. This is yours. This is for
Yeah.
let's just do this, guys. Let's rock and roll, man. I was just like, okay, Robert, like, dude, you shined so hard that day, man. And that was the day that solidified, how I look at you as a person. Was always so happy to see you at Spanibus, of course. It was an absolute joy to link
I'm
you up
on Hash Church Mobile.
with David and Diana. Who's talking there? Is that Ryan? Hash Church Mobile? I'm on Hash Church Mobile, he says. Oh, I can't see him because I took away the
We're going mobile.
We
are we
love you,
going with
Ryan. Good to see you,
nice,
man.
yes. Welcome, Ryan. You also must be just sort of kind of vibrating at a very high rate right now.
It hit me. It's kind of been like stuck in this whole thing and just trying to go and get it done has really allowed me to kind of distract myself from the reality.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
And
you've been busy.
yeah, but I mean, coming home Wednesday night, it was like, holy shit, Dave is gone.
Hmm.
So I'm having a bit of a bounce back from the other side. I spoke with Robert, which was nice.
Yep.
We had that weird cosmic connection when shit was going down. And yeah, it's been weird. Like we went up yesterday, Jan and I drove up to Laytonville and met up with Caleb, and we started distributing the vials. So, so that's good at least. Um, but yeah, man, the reality set in. It's like holy fuck, David's gone. So you got to
Yep.
try to figure out how obviously we move on, but it's like, damn, it's just such a big change.
Yep.
I think there's a flip side to it too, in the sense that Dave is not gone, if that makes any sense. Because I know he's gone, but then I also know he's not gone. Like
He's right here.
I can't imagine us not talking about him forever. I can't imagine us not thinking about him forever. And then more importantly, like this whole ashes and jar thing of like these ashes, I really hope the people that like understand like this is a real responsibility to get this through to fruition, to make sure that
Yeah.
whatever plant you put this into, that you pay the most attention to it that you've ever done, because I love the idea of all of these jars of ashes, you know, being shown throughout the community, going into the garden, maybe the picture being, put up of him behind the plant
Yeah.
being grown, bloomed, washed, processed, dried, and then that same jar being filled with the hash from that plant. To me, I mean, I'm not suggesting that's how people have to do it. I'm suggesting that's exactly what
Yeah.
I'm going to do from the school of Bubble Man and Skunk Man Sam. That's my interest right there. I'm sure there'll be all sorts of cool ways that it comes into play. It is the coolest fucking thing ever that I've ever heard anyone do. I mean, I've heard it before. I took my dad's ashes and put them in his tomato plants or whatever, but this is a man that's going to go out to 100 different people in the community that are going to grow, this beautiful cannabis. And
Yeah.
it's just so profound and powerful. You can almost like, if it was a movie script, how else could you write it? Like, what else could you write at the end of Dave's mortal experience? What would you like? If I was writing the movie and I didn't know the end, I would for sure write, we're going to take Dave's ashes, we're going to give them to all his loved ones and friends around the world, and we're going to grow cannabis because Dave wanted to be cannabis. And he certainly lived a life. I feel like he got closer than any of us to being cannabis. And now here we go. We're going to do it again. And I honestly think it's a beautiful thing for our community, for the elders in our community that have like done so much and put so much out there that it just connects us even further, and it's like, oh, Dave's gone, but yet no, Dave's like here now. Dave's this, Yeezy OG, or he's this Haze, or he's this skunk. It's just super cool. It really
Yeah,
is.
well,
And
I
go
sent
ahead, man.
you I sent you 4 photos, and I'm asking everybody that gets one of the jars to do a similar photo. And we're gonna send them to Diana, but it's kind of like it's weird. It's like the second part of the community project. Maybe you can put those up, Marcus.
Yeah. Which
Um,
ones are you talking about? Just so I don't put up the wrong
I just sent
ones.
you 4 photos on
Oh, like right now.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, and it's weird because Etienne's been doing this thing, and you have as well with some of the younger guys in this group, and we're kind of bringing people in and teaching them the stories of the past, and passing down the legacy of knowledge that Dave and Rob and people like Fred Gardner have left. Um, and so I find something really symbolic in these photos. This is Fred Gardner and Marcy. Fred Gardner is O'Shaughnessy's magazine. He's the journal for cannabis clinicians, I think they call it. And Etienne and I went and messaged them yesterday. Fred is like just super deep in the history of the cannabis movement in California. I mean, he was the spokesperson of the mayor's office in San Francisco when Dennis Braun had his club. And Fred has been just someone that I've known for years through the ICRS. He knows everybody in the research world. And yeah, so he's got a vial here, and if you roll through those photos, Mark, we got like Annie Reichen. This is Caleb, of course, who you met the other day. Pete Young, hippied out here with the dreads. Longtime Canadian and U.S. activist. He came up with super cropping. So anyway, it's just and with Annie, it's like you can see the legacy. You can see the these folks all have known David going back, Jesus, what, 30 or more years?
At least.
A- Annie was Annie Reichen. She was instrumental in the very first cannabis cups coming around and
Dude,
being.
you're forgetting we almost knew Dave for 30 years. When I met Dave and Rob, Annie was just a stable part of that whole scene. She was Annie. She was always there.
Yeah, and she was instrumental in those first cannabis cups and the first run of cannabis cups in Amsterdam. So it's nice to see ashes going to all these folks, and we're gonna try to get photos of everybody that ends up with some of the ashes, because it's kind of like documenting the roots or which way the waters are running down.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's
yeah,
powerful, man.
we packed up
Market.
we packed up a kilo a day the other day, piled them up, and yeah, we're dropping them off. So get in touch
Did
if you.
you sieve him?
We didn't need to. We didn't
Didn't
need
need
Nice.
to.
Of course you didn't. Of course Dave needed no cleaning up.
He was
Like,
he
like,
went right, he,
90 micron already.
yeah, he went right through that 90 micron, no issue. I also want to
Dude.
shout out to Fletch here, Archive, for making sure that we had access to these. And yeah, it's needless to
Above and
say,
beyond.
It's an honor. It's a privilege. And yeah, nothing but love, Diana. We're fulfilling his wishes completely.
Beautiful. No, it's the whole thing. It just was so beautiful, and you came up with that so fast, Art Fletch. Like it was almost like Max was just sitting waiting for your call. It's like, what can I do? I know that you guys are homies, like really good friends. I know when you called and asked him this, that even if he was busy and had 50 pipes in the queue, he would have dropped those 50 pipes and he would have made these. And just huge shout out to both of you, man. It's a big deal, man.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
really
for
is.
sure. I mean, I think it was, the important thing to me was to honor his legacy and his contributions, in the best way that we could given the circumstances. And yeah, Max really came through and worked over the weekend. He was actually like just at my house a couple days before, and we were just chatting and as soon as Marcus and Etienne and everybody and Ryan told me that, that was his wishes. I just kind of felt like it was important for, especially with everybody trying to do their little part for someone to, as there's all these things that need to get done, there's someone that needs to step up and take care of little bits and pieces and bring up the rear. And I just felt it was important to play that role and to contribute as much as I could.
You definitely brought up the rear, to say the very, very least. Yeah, standing ovation, dude. I know you hate this shit, but I'm not going to stop praising you for it because it means a lot to everyone. And of course, someone was going to stand up,
Yeah.
but it was Fletch. Fletch stood up and he took up the rear. So, yes, it was Max Poland who blew the glass vials, Boro Josh, who's asking in the chat room right now. So, yeah,
But
once again,
Fletch
go
didn't
ahead.
just take up the task from the rear. He pushed it right
Yeah.
up to the front, and
I know.
Etienne too. Etienne and his wife. I mean, those three people. This whole thing could not have gone past without them. Um, and I was caught up in the middle of it just because of time and location and everything. And I was able to step up, in person and be with Diana more because of proximity. But like Fletch and Donna and Etienne have just been absolute rocks during this whole thing and helping us get this ceremony and this memorial done. So please, everyone, support those guys. It was Fletch especially, and Etienne and Donna as well. I mean, it was just the amount of work and resources and time that they put in to make this thing special for David and the family. It was truly, truly amazing. And being able to go through such a hard day and look over at Diana and Haley and Maya and just see smiles on their face all day was just an immense thing of pride and privilege for me. Like it was not what I expected. So to see the day come off that way was really, really, really beautiful.
And we did this while we were all sick. We all caught the cold, unfortunately, via um, that Dave had, unfortunately, and we were able to push through. So, Ryan, thank you for being there, for being a rock. Fletch, thank you so much. To my wife, absolutely a stalwart. Thank you, Marcus, for getting the word out. And Lele Dubois from Humboldt Legacy Grace Project stepped up so fucking hard and caught so much shit from assholes from dumb shit that I just want to shout out to Lele for her hard fucking work and dedication making it happen, because it wasn't for her, it would have been much fucking harder. So thank you, Lele and Ryan and Donna
And
and Fletch and Marcus and everybody who stepped up for the family, because this was all about Diana and the kids, and they had smiles on their faces, and that's all we needed. That's all the payment we needed. So we did the best we could for this man, and yeah, Donna made sure we had these for the family. I mean, it was just all the little things, from the pictures to the flowers to absolutely everything. It was on top of that, it was storming all week in the bay, and somehow we were granted sunshine on the bay on that day, which was absolutely priceless. So,
Well,
Beautiful. Welcome, Dr. Mark. No, you're not coming
Oh,
through.
can you guys hear me?
hey,
We can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was my mic was off. Hey
He's
guys,
like,
how are
sorry,
you?
my PhD's in chemistry, not electronics.
No, it's all good. Hey, Robert Lee Carroll, very nice to meet you. I've seen your chat uh many times in the chat, so all your comments. So thank you.
Mark, I don't know if you remember me or not, but dude, I believe that we were partying at one of the Dead shows, man.
Yeah,
Deer Creek
yeah.
or Alpine Valley.
Yeah, well, name the year. I mean, I don't think I missed a Deer Creek or an Alpine
Eight,
Valley.
84.
Okay.
84. It was
Yeah.
pouring rain.
We're losing you, Robert. We're losing you.
And
Breaking up a little bit.
dude, you know what? It's so funny because
I would guess it's because we're not muted. So if you try everyone muting your
you
mics, he
know,
might start coming through clear.
we all made this connection. We all seem to. Are we here? Am I back? You know,
Now I
I
hear
don't know
you.
if it's Spain or what. I can hear you guys.
You're perfect again. I think when Dr.
Are we
Mark muted his
there?
mic, yes, you're
Oh,
perfect.
Mark, a pleasure to
84.
see you,
It was
man.
pouring rain.
Always a pleasure, dude. You keep channeling.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it probably was. I'm just trying to remember. So Deer Creek, the first year they played Deer Creek was 89, right?
I I
Oh, we lost him. He bumped out. Hopefully he comes back. Robert's such an amazing character. I've been
Yeah.
trying to get him onto Hash Church for a while. He really wanted to come on to the tribute show for Sam. And he was just, suffering from I'm too old and can't get Zoom to work on my phone syndrome. But he figured it out. It's a weird thing getting older when all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just can't figure this out. I can't make this work. Starting to happen to me just a little bit now, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Everyone ready for a big dab? I'm going to smash this Yeezy OG 6 star to the tune. I love playing with 6 star in my fingers and just stretching it out. It's just the most wonderful thing.
I was just
You know,
ahead of you.
one of the real benefits, at least from, I don't know if I call it a benefit, but seeing all the pictures of Sam when he was younger, right? Because he's always somebody who didn't want his picture shown, and you
No.
couldn't really, like you'd see him. Those of us who had like Skype conversations with him, he would certainly show his face, but never on like a public forum like Hash Church. And how cool is it, right? To just see all the pictures throughout the year. Like you said, Marcus, that one David Gilmour-ish kind of picture where he's there with Diana is just so cool. And the other one that I thought was really cool, Marcus, there's a picture with you and him, and your hair is just, you're just, you just look like you just walked off the lot of a fish show in the 90s, right? I mean, your
Yeah,
hair was all
I
like,
was wooked out.
you were totally worked out. I wasn't going to use the word, but you were totally worked out. But yeah, and you could sort of see like there was an intensity. He was obviously talking at the time, and I think you were talking too, but I think it was like obvious that he was saying something that was probably more important than what you were saying. But yeah, it
I
was
think
just
we could rest assured that that would be true.
but it was just so cool, right, to see all the photos, right? And I don't know, like Todd, I know dug up a couple more recent photos
Yeah,
of
Todd
him
had
and
some great
Diana
images.
and just all
Yeah.
the old photos. So yeah. And thank you so much, Ryan and Etienne. They reached out to me the other day as I was on my way home from work and said that I'm gonna get a vial of his ashes. And yeah, I'm into it, man. Let's turn him
This
into a
was
plant that we could smoke.
this was one of my favorite images that was shared, a recent image of them. I just love this image of David and Diane. I just think it just shows, you look in his eyes, you can see the journey and you see the love that Diana had for this man, just unwavering, complete and totally dedicated. I mean, when Diana met my wife was in the thick of it. We had two small babies. We were all staying in Jamaica together, and she really gave her incredible advice, you know, because she recognized, she's like, oh, you've got one of these too. So here's the advice I'll give to you. And she gave Charlene a lot of really good advice in regards to, I guess, how to deal with being married to a guy that's, you know, so intense. I do remember my wife telling me how much she thought she reminded me of Dave when she met him and when she heard Haley and Maya telling stories at the Celebration of Life. She texted me. She's like, whoa, I just turned it on and I heard Haley and Maya. And she's like, I kind of can't believe how much you remind me of Dave. So that's kind of cool. Thank you for that, Diana. Those were really nice moments spent. And I'm hoping to see Diana in Amsterdam in March, either on my way back from Spannabis or on my way to Spannabis. I don't even know if she's going to be there, but I do hope that she is. And if she is, I'm going to go visit her for sure. My plan was to go visit Sam. Fletch and I both had a plan to go visit Sam. We had Fletch hit me up probably 6 months ago, or maybe a little bit less, and he said, "Hey, we got to like interview Sam. He's got too many incredible stories that have not been um, shared." You know, he's like, "I think there's more. I know there's more." And I was like, "Yeah, I bet you Sam would be down with that," and sort of, you know, talked ever so briefly with him about it, but you know, time just whipped by and now we're where we are. So with that thought, with that said, what I would very much like to do in the future shows of Hash Churches is make sure that we're getting the stories from our elders who are still here, right? Like we can tell stories about Sam forever, and as we should, but we should also make sure that, you know, we want to get as many of these stories out of these elders that we possibly can. And so I'd like to make that a focus of the next couple of months where and I would ask all of you if you have questions that you may want to come up with. I think of right off the bat, Wade. I know Wade has incredible stories to share. And he's definitely one of our elders, and it would just be beautiful to get more of give him more time. You know, Wade will talk for 2 minutes and then he'll say, "Oh, I'm blabbering on. Sorry, you guys, for taking up so much time." And I'm like, "Dude, what are you talking about? Like, take up an hour. Just talk about stuff." That day that he pulled out the picture with Richard Nixon, I almost like shit myself. I was like, "Is this photoshopped? Is this an AI photo?" So we have these cool histories of all these different amazing people that are in our community, that we have access to, kind of open that up and get some of that out. So yeah, I would ask the panel, and I would ask the 335 people watching live right now, if you have cool questions in regards to really anyone on the panel. I'd like to give the opportunity to everyone, but first and foremost to some of our elders. That would be a cool direction for Hash Church to go in. And you know, right now Hash Church is kind of like in a tornado. It feels the same way as I'm sure Ryan feels and Etienne feels and I feel and how everyone probably feels. I just saw it probably 100 times, you know, and it resonated with me so true. It was Hash Church will never be the same. And I just thought, like, holy, like, ain't that the truth? Like, that is the truth. Hash Church will never be the same again. Um, but I hope that it can continue to honor and you know, the community, the elders, the people in the community doing it right. One of the things, of course, that I think I could say a lot of us loved about Dave, I know for a fact it's exactly what Fletch liked about him, was that he had a 0% like BS rating. Like if you went past 0.05 of bullshit, he would immediately lose his mind to the point of like it didn't matter who you were. I remember one time we had a woman in here who was a patient, and she was like talking about how she was vaporized. She said something and it was like not right, and he was just like jumped with all passion, with all emotion. I remember talking to him afterwards. I was like, hey, like that was a patient. You got to relax a little bit. And he was just like, it's all or not, it's all on when it comes to bullshit. And that is such a value for our community and for like, if you were lucky enough to have Dave destroy you by something that you said and you decided to learn from it instead of like playing like hurt Harry and like walked off into the corner and cried. I mean, I think Jeremy Plum was on here last week talking about how Dave annihilated him the first time he ever met him. And I won't say that he didn't annihilate me, like he was on another level. I attained it to meeting the professor. Like you're the young Padawan student. It's like you're and or like a somewhat pissed off Yoda who's like just didn't have the didn't want to go so far back. He was so far ahead. He didn't want to turn around and take everyone's hand and walk them through it. But if you climbed through the quagmire and the barbed wire and you made it to, even within his orbit, you could walk side by side with him and you could learn from him. And that's what he did on Hash Church. He did it on IC Mag. He started doing it on LinkedIn as of recently, but he did it here for 10 solid years in his own voice, unmistakable. There's so many things written about this man. I will say, and I'm sure that his story on both sides of the coin will continue to extrapolate. I would urge people to make sure that if you want to hear Sam's words, go to his posts and go to his podcasts where you can hear his voice, because that'll be the most accurate thing you're going to get. And I think that the writings will probably end up they just won't be able to not make mistakes as these stories continue on. And as, oh, let's write a story about Skunkman Sam 3.5 years from now for a new magazine that doesn't exist right now. And I just, yeah, it'll be up to us to make sure that those stories stay accurate. Yes, that's right, Harry Delaney. Bullshit did not pass with Sam. Sam would call anyone on bullshit, which is awesome.
What I really appreciate about that is, man, life is short. The only currency we've really got is time, and it's way too short to put up with people's bullshit. And that was kind of what I always got from him and his perspective. And to me, it's the ultimate respect. You're respecting everybody's time here. Let's stop bullshitting each other and let's just get to the real facts and let's move forward. And that's the most productive way to be in life, in my opinion.
Yes, exactly. And right when you said that, Browsen to Learn asked this question. Wasn't Sam a little extra hard on Kelly and Josh on their early Hash Church appearances? And right away, for me, I'm like, I think, well, then that shows how much love he had for them. If he was extra hard on the Dragonfly Earth Medicine, it's because he recognized who they were, who they could be, what they were doing, and he respected it. And if he respected you enough, he would tear you a new one. And
because he's trying to help at the end of the day, right?
Well, it is help. It's just a matter. Listen, I fell into the same category, dude. People would call me up on a very much smaller perspective than Sam, obviously. But for Bubble Hash and selling bubble bags, people would hit me up constantly and they would say, how do I get my hash to melt like yours? And then, for a long time, for years, I'd be like, well, it's not, you got to get the good genetics and but I could tell as time went on, I started becoming salty. In particular, I'd be real salty when I would tell people exactly what they needed to do and they would ignore it, because what they needed to do, which what they need to do, Archive, they need to spend the next 20 years learning about the symbiotic relationship of mycorrhizosphere and plants and soil biomes and expressions of the plant. And you have to go down the rabbit hole. Like, yeah, maybe you got lucky. Maybe your dad was an awesome tomato farmer and he showed you a few tricks and the first cannabis. It does happen. Some people plant cannabis for the first time. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the people on this panel were those people and get fire. Like I've grown 6 Star a multitude of times, I don't really think of myself as a good grower, I'll be honest. But like I've killed crops. I've had plants where I planted them and been like, oh fuck, I just can't take care of this. I don't have the time and the energy. But I've also grown Six Star. And for those that haven't, if you're lucky enough to grow Six Star and you buy bags and make Six Star hash, well, wow, you just hit the lottery. But for the rest of the world, it's this long journey of like, okay, do I just take my mediocre bubble that's like sand and doesn't melt and press it into rosin so I can appear to have the flex I've been looking for? Or do I do the fucking work? Do I head down the path? Do I learn all about these things? Because I would always tell people you have two options. You can hone your olfactory into a fine-tuned machine that allows you to find the fire from growers out in the world, which is more what I do. Guys like Nicotee, Matt Rise, that's what we were doing. We were finding the subcools and the fletches. And when you find those guys, they've already taken care of 95% of the work. So thank you for that. And then all you have to do is really take care of the variables. I think you'd agree, Colin, maybe an hour and a half. Okay, maybe if it's a big wash, it's a 5 to 7 hour variable timeline versus the 3 month variable timeline that they just went through to grow said exceptional resin. And a ton of people would much rather take their mediocre bubble and just press it into rosin. Thank God we have that now, because before that, the only option was BHO. And I'm not shitting on BHO, but BHO, in my opinion, should only be done by people who did not fail grade 10 chemistry. If you fail grade 10 chemistry, get the fuck off the platform. Get that can out of your hand. You are not doing this. And you should be laughing, Mark, because kinda isn't funny. Let's just leave that to people who know what they're doing. Invisible gases that are like counterintuitive and heavy and like float down to the ground. People don't know that butane's all pooling on the ground, just sitting 18 inches above the ground, hanging out around their knees and stuff. They have no idea that when it bursts into flames, it's going to melt your clothes under your skin. So that scared me when that was the only other option to mediocre flour getting turned into mediocre hash. I was like, how do I turn it into dabs? That was the obsession. And in my opinion, that's really what drove the popularity of BHO. Its ease, its quickness, and the sheer amount of mediocre flour that needed to be turned into dabs. Now, today,
It's
go ahead.
profitability.
It's profitability as well.
Let's-
Very profitable.
That's why they liked it, because you could take all the shit no one else wanted and turn it into cash. And that was the majority of the operators in the BHO scene.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
it's
you're not
still
wrong.
that way today, commercially, like if you really think about it, it's stuff that has to go to either remediation that needs its own remediation, right?
That should go in the trash. That shit should go in the
Yeah,
trash.
I mean, and that's the thing. That's where I think there's this like conversation around commercial cannabis that like, oh, the test or this or test or that. It's like, no, you don't have the right tool chest and you're not pulling from it and understanding that agriculture is very difficult. And there's standards that you have to abide by, but that means that your game has to be on, and you have to learn and progress and make SOPs or get your team together and the supporting departments around that. It's a real interesting thing, like we've all fallen into this. We fought for this idea of legalization and now we have this regulation, which is fine. It's just it's a big conversation. It's an evolving one, right? Every state has it and they're slightly different. So it's really interesting. In terms of hash making, it's a challenge for a lot of people, but I welcome a good challenge, it's kind of what I love about it. It's cool to have like it elevates your game to be held to a standard, and I think that's something that I think everyone should, take a look at sometimes, because it's often where we see cannabis that's been ran through rad machines and jars where it's not even labeled, and people go in there thinking it's what they see in images, and it's factually not the same thing. And that I don't think that's why any of us are here. We don't want to be remediating our work, right? It's
No.
like a painter getting to the end and being like, I'm gonna light it on fire to
I
take my
think we're
finger.
trying to preserve it as much as possible. Yet at the same time, I do think there's a deep hypocrisy in the world of cannabis and the people who consume it by how afraid they are to do certain things. Well, even okay, here's a perfect example. People who are legacy, who are opposed in any way, shape, or form of supporting legal cannabis. They don't go to dispensaries. They call it government weed, which is amazing because they buy government gas and government booze and government groceries and all these other things. And it's kind of the same thing for these remediation processes. Like if you eat food out of a box, like it's not like a mango or a pear or like like an animal, like a fish or if you're eating food out of a box, the likeliness of it having gone through similar process is extremely high. Like really, really high. So we have this hypocrisy where, and don't get me wrong, I agree. Like, I don't want my food to be irradiated. I don't want my cannabis to be irradiated. At the same time, unless we go back to like these small pockets of farmers that supply small villages of groups of people, and we want to have this massive scale, someone better come up with some good fixes on how you go that big and feed that many people and touch that many people without causing the inevitable problems that occur through the SOPs that get added based on the CFOs who are like, we have to shave costs and increase margins. And that sort of pattern always gets us where we always seem to go. It's like, I mean, shit, what would you do, Fletch, if you had a crop come down, maybe like a good sized one, like 50 kilos or something, like 100 pounds, and it needed to be like it failed microbials? Like, do you just throw it away, or are you like, no, I got to do something, find some value, and then just be transparent about what I did with it and why I did it? Or fuck, I could hear him say he would throw it away.
I just
But
throw it away.
You would. Fucking right.
Yeah.
So good for you, dude.
Yeah, because the amount of time and money I'd spend trying to remediate this bullshit and then put it to market and ruin my brand name. If anything, I would sell it to someone that is gonna remediate or do whatever the fuck they're gonna do with
Right.
it.
Put it under some other.
But I'm not gonna touch it because it's just throwing more money, more good money after bad money, and I'm not. I'm
Good for
a
you,
firm
dude.
believer in just trashing the experiment and moving forward. One thing I want to go back to that you talked about earlier, just before we get too far down the hash road or anything, is collecting all these stories from all the guys that essentially created their stories in a lost era of cannabis evolution. And that's what we had discussed, and it's unfortunate the circumstances, but there are still a lot of people that we can gain that from. And I think it'd be really cool if we could organize some of these hash churches to be more like an interview for let's say Rob or Soma or any of these guys, just that we can get the stories, stay on track and path on maintaining the inquiry about their experiences and their history.
Well, man, if you want to talk about history, welcome to Fred Gardner, who just popped on. This
Dude, how was the
gentleman
timing,
has-
Ryan? How was that timing? Fletch
Yeah.
began talking about preserving the elder stories, and Fred came in like a second later.
Fred has maybe
That's
the
so cool.
deepest understanding of the California historical scene of anyone that I've ever met. I'd put it that way. And he's been going to the IRS. Fred, what year was your first ICRS meeting?
It was 98, and that's when I met Watson, and he had just he and Rob Clark had just sold their quote genetic library close quote to GW Pharmaceuticals, and Jeffrey Guy was there, and Dave Pate, who was active with them in Amsterdam, putting out the hemp journal that they produced.
That was the year that you took that picture of
Yeah, and
yeah.
I was very lucky. I had a job at UCSF editing the weekly paper, and the med students were the staffers, and they took the summer off. So I had light duty in the summer, and I was able to take my vacation time. And I really lucked out because that was 98 was exactly when Lynn Howlett was reporting that she had found the receptor. And it, and there was a dramatic confrontation between Gabriel Nahas, the arch prohibitionist, who got up and yelled at Meshulam as Meshulam was making a presentation, and it was just it was really a turning point meeting. It was the real recognition that the endocannabinoid system was there was much more to explore.
Yeah, Gabriel Nahas, you once called him, was it Nancy Reagan's favorite
That was
researcher?
John McPartland, who I just met, turned to me while Nahas was up there harassing Meshulam. He said, "That's Nancy Reagan's favorite scientist."
Yeah, Fred has been going to these ICRS meetings and has been able to provide me with more context and historical understanding about all the parties between the researchers, as well with David, as well with Sam. Because you guys have been going to these meetings for so long and getting to know all the players involved. Gabriel Nahas was Reagan's, was he the drug czar at the time? Was that
He
correct?
No, he was a professor of anesthesiology at NYU, and he turned out books, and he was very active. And at one point, there was a scientist named Paul Consro, who had done a study in Brazil that showed CBD had strong anti-seizure properties. And Nahas immediately published an article in a prestigious journal saying that yes, there were occasionally some positive effects, but they were vastly outweighed by the negative effects. And he just within the scientific community, he tried to squelch the early evidence of CBD as an anti-seizure medication.
That's
Fred,
wild that
can
you
you give us
dropped that name. Sorry, Ryan. I haven't heard the name Gabriel Nahas. Like, didn't he do like some sick, like, didn't he do the monkey studies where he basically suffocated monkeys to
Yeah,
death with like the amount that would be like you putting your lips on an exhaust pipe or something?
There was another guy at UCSF named Reese Jones who did those kind of studies.
Jesus.
And the dosages they used were outrageously high when they were, to show negative effects. Had nothing to do with any consumption. Even a heavy user like Dave Watson was, using only a fraction of what these guys were so-called experimenting with. It was a racket.
Listen,
I went,
Etienne's pushing joints in my face and making me feel like a monkey at the moment.
lucky
Fred,
you.
Fred, can you give us context about how, we're talking like 94, 95, Peron has the club in California, 215 is a new thing. You were
That was
working
not.
at you were working at the San Francisco mayor's office at the time, were you not?
No, I was at UCSF through 99, and then Terrence Hallinan was the DA, the progressive DA, and Terrence was the only elected official in California who supported Prop 215. And he wanted part of my job was not just to be press secretary, but to help see that it got implemented in San Francisco. And I tried very hard to convince the health department to do some things San Francisco used to be a great flower growing city. There were actually glass houses all over the city, and South City was a big horticultural center. And one of the things that the war on drugs did was they would subsidize the Colombians to grow things like carnations. So the money crops for the flower growers were undercut by by these subsidized Colombian imports, and the flower industry in South City and even as far down as Half Moon Bay really suffered from that war on drugs boost to South American flower production.
Welcome, Dr. David Allen. another awesome elder from
Hello.
the community. How are you doing, Dr. Allen?
I'm doing quite well.
Do you know Fred Gardner? Do you guys know each other?
We
I
do.
do, but we've never met, but I
Yes, we
submit
have. You have.
articles to him.
We have met David, and I met
Oh,
your
that's
friend
right.
Susan. I met your friend Susan at the at the memorial for David, and she gave me some literature which I put on my to do. It's on my to do list from you.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, cool. Just a
Yes.
bunch of old friends here at Hash Church. It's really nice to have you both in here. We were literally just talking about like preserving these stories that like you guys have them all and we have some of them, but not all of them. And I really do like that idea, Fletch, about doing some special hash churches where we're just like straight interviewing and just pulling the stories out for 4 hours straight. I'm going to pass
Brad
it over
has,
to Wade because he just put his hand up. Sorry, Ryan. We'll just let Wade go and then you
of
can
course.
say what you're going to say. Go ahead, Wade.
Yeah, it's not so old history, but something that I care a lot about and was right in the middle of. Project CBD is a fairly well-known educational organization that would not exist if it were not for the efforts of Fred Gardner back when I learned about CBD, because when Harlequin happened, I had no clue what CBD was. And Fred directed me to basically 2 years of education, going to various medical conferences and whatnot, and helped me learn about CBD and what it could do, for example, for children with epilepsy. And I'll leave it at that. And thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Wade. Thank you for Harlequin. Helped a lot of countless people.
You changed my life, Fred. Thank you.
Wow. Don't make me blush.
Very nice. Yeah, that's and still changing and helping people's lives. Certainly not over. The Harlequin is out there and helping on the regular.
So, just kind of to finish my thought earlier, Marcus, essentially what I'd love to see us do is like, speak with someone like Fred a little bit before we have a hash church or whatever, and kind of just go over like kind of come up with things that we think are important that we could talk about and kind of compile an actual episode that's just as much of a rundown of as much relevant history and insight that we could get and really focus on one person's experience throughout, even if that's in the future of, like we were talking about, you and I going around and doing it in person, which I think is much more fun and meaningful to a certain degree, but I'm happy to do it any way that we can as well, because I'm sure there's more than a couple or few hours worth of, exceptional info to collect and preserve.
Does
Well,
Dominic
Fred is
Ford-
also the documentarian who created O'Shaughnessy's, which is a medical papers which kept a lot of us informed on studies and information because that was very specialized information. And Fred comes from a journalism background via Harvard, so he has kept us very informed over the decades. And Fred, we can't thank you enough because we as patients, as providers, had our anecdotal experiences in cannabis, and your publishing and your updating of what was happening historically as well as what was happening with regular medical studies helped bring a lot of the darkness into the light for a lot of people and helped enlighten lots of people. So we are forever in the medical cannabis community in debt to your information and spreading of information, because you gave out the hard information that researchers needed, and you gave people like David Watson a platform and published his picture actually just so that people could further understand. So you're a historian who's continued to make sure we're all educated about what is happening medically, and I cannot thank you enough for
I was
taking that
I was
lead.
just a reporter, and it was Watson. Watson was really the educate. Watson, John McPartland. We had some great explainers on our side, and Watson. the whole CBD story broke at that 1998 meeting, because that was how Jeffrey Guy convinced the British Home Office, the British government gave him the license to grow in these very these great facility. It used to be military facility in Southeast England, and he convinced the Home Office that the marijuana that Queen Victoria was using back in the 19th century was not THC dominant, but was CBD dominant. And he had some paperwork from India to confirm that. And so he convinced them that that if he grew a 50-50 CBD THC mix, the CBD would counter the psychoactivity of THC, and they gave him the license to go ahead and grow. Then he needed plants. And of course, he knew, and the world people in the know knew, that Watson and Clark had had the facility in Amsterdam where they were the real cutting edge, far ahead of everybody in these what were then known as the minor cannabinoids. CBD was actually the phrase they used, minor cannabinoids. Even CBD was a minor cannabinoid. And the straight press, like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, as late as year 2000, were describing THC as the active ingredient in cannabis. And when Watson explained at that 1998 meeting that the significance of CBD, and Guy explained it, and McPartland explained it, I was really just, like I say, just carrying their information. So we owe it to Watson and Clark for what we knew about CBD in 98. And then in 2006, Watson had sent an email about the terpenoids, and which I set as a letter to the editor. And I just assumed that he would be fine with that, but I didn't realize that Dave, being an OG, a real OG, did not want his name on. He went back and forth. A part of him wanted recognition, like any creator. He wanted acknowledgement. On the other hand, as an OG, he wanted anonymity. So we finally, at the last minute, worked out a compromise where we'd run the letter with name withheld. And he explained he had been conducting an experiment at his apartment in Amsterdam, where he'd have people like Donnie Wirtschafter and Ethan Russo and his friends over, and he'd give them various terpenoids. And he back in 2006, as he explained in O'Shaughnessy's, he was already realizing that limonene was inspiring and myrcene helped with sleep and things like that. He was way, way, way ahead of all of us, and was gracious enough to bring us with him.
Absolutely. Well said, Fred. I feel like as they were describing some of your works, I felt like, my goodness, Dr. Allen and I are going to have to get a hold of Fred on the side of this. Dr. Allen and I have a show we're doing called the Cannabis Journal Club, and we just breaking down patents and studies that are, very much scientific jargon, and Dr. Allen just breaks them down in a nice, concise. They're very short shows, 15 minutes, but we're always looking for studies and papers, and we'll definitely reach out to you, because that would be nice to have you be any part of that you could possibly be. And it's really nice to have you here on Hash Church. We're still celebrating Dave forever, really. I think it will be. I still, like Ryan, can't believe that he's not here. Today, actually, someone reached out to me, a gentleman. I did a call to action asking if someone could go through all the old Hash churches and sort of pull out all of Dave's conversations
Great
that he
idea.
had. Yeah,
Great idea.
exactly. Compile that, get it compiled. So the gentleman who is helping, he hit me up this morning. I think we're on quite a time difference, maybe 9 hours. Because he sent me a message today saying, "Hey, I've got a really great audio clip of Sam going, 'Howdy, howdy.'" And I was like, "Oh, I was going to open the show with that today, but he's not able to get it to me till the morning, which will be my midnight or something. So maybe next Sunday we'll start Hash Church with a howdy howdy from Skunkman Sam.
Hey, I feel like I need to give comment to the most important thing that happened on Wednesday, which was who, in David's honor, who brought the best hash. Should definitely be
Dude.
discussed. And there's a gentleman, I'm not going to give his last name, but Adam M. He showed up. He had some absolutely fantastic resin. He also had a big, thick ass roar bong. So I knew that Dave would have been impressed with his showing up. And of course, Fletch is the other one that had that top shelf. Those two guys and their stashes are on the top shelf. No winners when it's that quality. It's just all the top.
Dude, that's the highest honor right there. All of a sudden, you go on Archive Seeds and you can see in the bio on his Instagram, like top shelf at Skunkman Sam Celebration 2020.
Yeah, he and Adam,
Oh.
gentleman, I believe was from up in Oregon. He had, like I said, he showed up with just a suitcase and his cold little chest of high quality resins, and it was.
So what was his resin? Was it rosin, bubble, or dry sift?
Both. He had everything. Yeah, he had all the above. I mean, he was. That's why he got the honorable mention. Like he Fletch had just that was him.
Yeah, so those
It
are the
just had
two.
such he had such a range. It was pretty impressive. It definitely that was where the night ended up, just dabbing their stashes over and over. It was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that looks fire. That
It
looks
was where
fire
Dave.
too,
It
Fletch.
was where David would have been, right? It's like he would have been parked right beside those. So it was the
Mine the jam right there. Keep
spot.
holding that one up. There it is. I like
Dude.
that. That looks great.
Yeah, Fletch had some absurd. He had a massive 160 micron full melt. Like they were like
This is Fletch right here.
the plum sized resin glands.
Yeah, that's the dry sift right there that Etienne's showing. And then I have this one strain. It's HP 13 crossed with Maui Skunk Dog. That were seeds that Gray Skull Seeds made maybe probably almost 10 years ago now. I popped them. Mostly HP 13 phenos. That is Skittles flavor pack, that AM10. And it's one of the only strains that I have that consistently, like, I get good yields of 160 micron that is as melty as anything else. There's slightly more contaminant in it, obviously, because it's the higher bag, but the heads are just so massive that, I mean, it's like water pretty much.
It's cool to see. I've noticed over the years that there's some select outcrosses that just throw in that range more often, and I'm starting to see it more and more. It's really interesting. Before I never saw it, to be honest. 160 was always just kind of food grade stuff that we put to the side.
Yeah, it's mostly stocks typically.
Yeah,
It's just
100%.
even if the strain that you have, I mean, I have one strain. There's a lot of strains actually too that the heads are so sticky that like you try and wash them, you end up with like clusters inside the 220 bag, and you look on the bottom of your 220 bag and it's just gold, and you're like, I'm never gonna get that hash back.
Yeah.
That also happens, but I think it's a combination of stickiness, trike head size, and how you wash it and how you process it.
Yeah, you got to get it colder when it's things like that. And they're a little bit greasier. That's why we try to keep we have a range in our rooms for everything that we do, but we like to keep it below 32, but like right 28, 29 degrees. And some of them they require to go lower just because it's like you said, it just sticks. I have a question for Fred. Really pleasure to meet you. It really is really nice to meet you here. When you were working with Sam, there was a lot of adversity in terms of research that was essentially garnered towards basically harm and in terms of toxicology, you had so many people just constantly together at once, becoming such a large voice. How did Sam seemed to cut right through it, in a way. And I appreciate Rob and Sam's always appreciated their point of view because they took a very academic point of view with everything. And it made me feel like it was had a little bit more of a highbrow approach to how they, were when they were in the room with these individuals, they were able to get their ear. What did you see, during those times? Like, is there anything you can share with us that he, because he was such, like Fletch said, he was just a bullshit radar. You'd be like, no, that's not, the BS is too loud here. I can smell it. Like how was that taken by some of these
I
individuals
didn't
around you?
see him in any confrontational situations like that. I do know that he was very aware of that. He had the strong feeling and a correct feeling that medical use was going to be the ticket to legalization. And he told me that the clincher in terms of his deciding to become an expat and not return was when the FDA approved Marinol, which is pure THC marketed by Eli Lilly. And he figured that was it for them, and that the kind of research that he wanted to do was never going to be allowed. And the other thing that reminded me about his interest in medical use, he was friends with Valerie Corral in Santa Cruz. And Valerie had epilepsy and continued to have occasional seizures. And he was tracking which somebody brought a strain from South Africa, some kind of a Durban strain, to Valerie in the 80s that she found very consistently helpful. I don't think she could get enough of it, but it was the one. And he was totally aware of that and in pursuit of it. But I didn't see him going to the mat with anybody.
Interesting. So he was more like, look, from what I'm hearing from you is like, look, I have work to do. And I'm just cliff noting this, and the United States will never allow me to do this, so I need to find a place. We're lucky enough today, based on that ideology, to go to a new state, right? Like I went to a new state to find a license to do what I love, right? He had to travel the world, which is incredible, because I think that's important for us all to note. And so he had a tool chest of varietals or cultivars, if you will, that you're telling us, Fred, that he knew had therapeutic effects, and he was interested in using those as
nailing it
outcrops.
down and figuring out which terpenoids had which components of the plant had medical effects. That was very much part of his interest. And
Yeah, he didn't even sorry. He didn't even have cultivars then. He just had populations.
Right.
So he was
Yeah, that's
taking
more
these huge
accurate. Yeah.
populations of seeds that he had collected all over and hybrids that they'd made in California.
Right.
And when he moved over to Holland in 84, 85, it wasn't only about it. I think there was a lot of it was David just loved the plant, right? So a lot of it was about recreation, but he also had understand at that point in time there was a medical aspect.
Totally right.
Yeah, and when he
It's
got
not an
busted,
either or. It's
Hey
not an
man,
either
I'd love to chime in if I could.
do it.
Yeah.
Hey dude, how are you doing, man? God, I cannot figure out this fucking phone shit, even though I've got a good iPhone. Listen, I just wanted to chime in right there. Remember, guys, this is a drug war. Okay, you guys lived through it. I did too. I had to fucking leave, man. You guys, this is still going on. States that I came from, Wisconsin, okay, those kinds of places with people who are absolutely bonkers when it comes to just saying marijuana, they think drugs, okay, right off the bat. Those people, it's almost like you're never going to convince. We've talked about this before. Unless one of their loved ones gets it, Okay. And all of a sudden, a cancer, I'm saying, and then all of a sudden they discover, my God, look at the wonders of cannabis. Look at what this does for this loved one of mine. They don't get it, man. And the drug war at that time pushed all of us out, man. It pushed us out of the US. You guys, it's a fucking sad scenario because David would have stayed in California if it had not been for Bonzo, man, for fucking Reagan. Diana knows what I'm talking about. The drug war. You guys remember in the 80s, it was really serious. They fucking came down on you hard, man. Okay. And that was the whole thing. David, you guys said it. You all are saying such truths about David, and I love that so much, man, because you guys we're all here and going forward, and he would love it and be right behind us 100% and say go go go. And what he was, and I talked to him about it. I said, David, you were fucking 15 years ahead, bro. He said, no, Robert, no, 20 years ahead. 20, maybe 25. And Marcus too. Marcus was ahead, but because of being mentored by guys like Robert Clark and by him. And you guys, we're getting older now. You know what I mean? It's like I was ashamed at one point for losing my child, okay? But I'm not, man. I'm mad. I'm mad, you guys, because I didn't get the chance to see my child grow up. David fought for this kind of stuff. Marcus fought for this kind of stuff. Okay. And we believed in it with our hearts. And you guys, the way we're coming together now, instead of fighting, okay, in any kind of way, what we need to do is network because the war is not over.
We're losing you,
Hey,
but
thanks,
Did you
man.
hear that? The
I
war
just wanted
is
to
not
get that in there. And David would be
over. That was awesome ending, Robert. You did get it in, by the way. You did get it in,
You
by
got
the
it.
way.
Thanks, man.
You fought the good fight, brother.
Oh,
Yep, and still fighting, Etienne.
Still fighting. Yeah.
So funny.
Well,
That
I
was
think that's,
hilarious.
part of the a real reason why we should, try to preserve these stories because it can be a lot of inspiration for the younger generations to want to continue it forward. And like you're saying, it isn't over. It truly isn't.
No, I mean, I came up in the East Coast New York market, and it's changed a lot in the last even 18 months, and that's something I fought for as a child, and I think, Rikers Island is a real thing, and I think for all of us that are sit here today, I think it was all real in ways that it isn't today in terms of risk. It's changed a lot. Now there are states like you mentioned, and countries, we still have to fight for. So there's a lot of reform that we all have, we have to be good stewards of and embody the
Yeah.
things that,
In the
people
90s,
like
which
Sam
is
and Robert have fought for and continually brought to the table is there is a better path. We just have to continue to be good stewards of it. Like
it,
for us, I think it's like cultivation wise, we have to go back to the basics. We have to be really, really good at growing great plants. Like that's been lost. I don't know where along the line we've fought so hard, but we forgot about what that means to us. But it's, we've got to put better medicine in people's hands so they don't lose faith in what we're trying to do.
well, it's hiding behind those dumpsters in New York when I was at High Times when we thought we could get high, but no, guys, we have to go downstairs and go behind the dumpsters. And we got to keep a lookout for the cops because we don't want to end up in Rikers for the weekend. So that Rikers feel was real. And it was one thing to grow up reading High Times. It's another thing hang out with the High Times people and you're taking, switch it looks to make sure that actually NYPD isn't rolling on your ass just as you're trying to medicate on the streets. So yeah, man, that's we're still fighting, but that shit was real.
Dude, that was the first joint I ever smoked in my life. The first joint was behind the local convenience store in my neighborhood. And behind it was a big blue BFI garbage can. And that's where me and my buddy Steve McAvoy smoked our first joint at 14 years old, huddled up next to this dirty ass garbage bin in a sketchy back area of, you know, a community store or whatever. And just yeah, that was my introduction to weed. You had to smoke it next to garbage cans if you wanted to feel somewhat safe. And then, of course, you'd go out into the world and be like, nobody knows I'm stoned, even though, of course, we reeked like weed and probably looked very stoned. To be 14 and to meet cannabis again for the first time, eh? Now there's a story. How would that be for an experience? Put the VR goggles on, go have your first joint all over again. Pretty awesome.
Fred gave an absolutely beautiful speech the other day at David Watson's memorial, and I want to acknowledge that and those that came out for sure. Fred, it was absolutely heartfelt and to the point. And I spoke with you. You also spoke of your loss of your friend, Dr. Todd McArea, who, of course, was my early mentor in medical cannabis, and he studied my Gulf War syndrome and was my first doctor to give me my first recommendation. So you spoke fondly of the loss of your friend because you used to speak to him every day. So,
Yes, I did.
and he's no longer with us. So, would you like to share a little reflection on your friend?
Well, Todd died in 2007. He had been a cigarette smoker for 20 years, and he eventually developed a cancer that moved to his liver. And I've written about, it's hard, I'm trying to remember the details, but basically Todd was a very, his mother, he was born in the 30s, like 33 or 34. So he's coming of just as World War II is starting. He's 7 or 8. He's got a kid sister behind him in school, and his mother is German born and his father is Japanese born, and World War II is just breaking out. And so they were picked on, really picked on by by American white kids in rural Pennsylvania. His dad, who was a samurai, was an engineer with a job in Trenton, and they were really harassed, beaten, and chased, and so he had an instinctive. So he was an instinctive supporter of civil rights, and then he discovered when he was in medical school at Temple. He'd gone to Reed, and then he'd gone to med school at Temple. And there's a famous pharmacology text. It's called something, and I'm starting to lose my once perfect memory, but the pharmacology text had this reference to marijuana that intrigued him. And he decided on his summer vacation, he decided to go down to Mexico and try some. And from that time on, he understood, he kind of got it that this was a relatively benign herb. And he started collecting the pre-prohibition medical literature. Now, I came of age in the 50s and 60s, 70s, and I had no idea, and my friends had no idea that marijuana had been a medicine used by doctors in the United States of America in the early 20th century, sold as tinctures made by Eli Lilly and Smith, Sharp and Dohme and major pharmaceutical companies. And it had been completely erased. It's like, I forget like in Men in Black, they have that spray, the Tommy Lee Jones has that spray, and that you forget what you just saw.
Yeah, the
And,
light that they
and
shine in your.
that light, that's our culture is like that. It erases memory. And I thought I was had a decent education and wasn't a square, but I had no idea that marijuana had this history of as medicine. Zero.
And what year was this? Just so we can get some context
Well,
on that.
Todd got understood it in the 50s when he was in medical school, and I didn't really get it until the mid 60s. I thought it was just a nice thing that happened in your mind. I had no idea about its anti-seizure properties. I was interested in the science side of the story because I had a son with epilepsy, and he didn't want to be. I never made a point of it because he didn't want to be identified as a patient. When ASA came in and then the patients were for the patient, well, a lot of young men don't want to be defined as patients. They want to be defined as, what they're interested in. And so I kept him out of it. But I was really trying to get at medicine for my son. Because if you've ever been with somebody who's had a grand mal seizure, it's one of the most terrifying, and you're holding, if it's on the sidewalk, you're holding their head up so they're not smashing themselves against the sidewalk. And it's a desperately needed medicine. So given that personal interest, I stayed in very close touch with Todd. Todd also, my wife, Marcy, gave him some good help. He had a little daughter and was divorced. Todd had been divorced 5 times. And Dennis Peron used to say to him, Todd, you can get laid without getting married. You don't have to get married to get laid. I can introduce you to women and you can get laid. And but anyway, Todd was single, was a divorced dad bringing up this little girl, and my wife, who's a very, very good mom, gave him help, and he'd bring the little girl. She's now a grown woman, bring her over once in a while, and that was part of our bond, was as parents. But he was he actually wrote the first paper about the medical use of marijuana in a little magazine that came out of DC in 1970. And he had a patient, he was a psychiatrist, and he had a patient who described to him that if she smoked before going to a party, she could have fun at the party, and only this. And so he wrote a paper about cannabis as a substitute for alcohol. And then it got suppressed, and he lost his job at the National Institute of Medicine. He realized they were using him as a kind of spy to go into places and report back on who had marijuana. I should send, if I've written about Todd, and when, as you may know, once you've written about something, instead of talking spontaneously, you're trying to remember what the fuck you wrote. So if you send me,
these stories are incredible.
I'll send it to Ryan or Etienne and Wade, and they can forward it to everybody on the list. But it's a story that's got to be preserved. And I just, while I'm talking incoherently, Todd thought there was a crucial point in 1998 when they handed the research over to the CMCR at UC San Diego, and the UC San Diego was committed to only using NIDA marijuana for their research. And Todd said there was some wording either in Prop 215 or Todd said we have to do research with the marijuana that Californians are actually smoking. That's what we need to understand. And he lost that fight. The paid agents of George Soros, who had usurped the movement from Todd and Dennis Peron and their allies, they were in bed with the San Diego crowd. They thought it was the way toward respectability. But that San Diego crowd to this day, they're pushing cannabis use disorder and research into harms.
So more of the same in terms of the narrative that has plagued, you know,
Yeah.
the time that, you know, you've had with this, and also us. So it sounds like there's others in the mix too, you know. Is there any, you know, lineage, and because it's a very linear timeline, it seems, to, you know, from that pivotal point you mentioned in 98. You know, when do you think there was a real turning point, not only in California, but just in the general consciousness of a lot of these people that were saying no, or perhaps maybe some of them never transitioned into believing that there is medical benefit? Is there anything you can speak on with that?
Well, it was a step-by-step process. One thing I'm starting to realize is that the pharmaceutical industry has they're not to be underestimated. They have brilliant people working for them who really understand how to minimize the acceptance of marijuana as medicine and the safety of marijuana. I think a lot of the I think they've allowed the mess that the industry is in. I think they've allowed it to happen, have wanted it to happen. I sort of lost heart about 9 or 10 years ago. As the political movement was being disappearing behind the industry and the investors and the profiteers. I started writing about other things, but in the last little period, Etienne and Ryan and David's passing, I've decided to roll up my sleeves and get the story out as best I can. So I'll start by mailing you some. Like I said, it's easier for me to send you what I've written than to try to remember how I put it.
Hey,
Well, I
Fred,
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Being at UCSF, what can you tell us about Don Abrams and how important his work was in not only, I guess,
Here we
medical
go.
cannabis? Okay. Well, I
Donald,
thought just because he mentioned he was at UCSF,
yes,
is that,
No,
I
listen,
think,
these are the questions, Mark, and it's so important that you
Donald.
are
Well,
chipping in. Fred knows everybody, so
thanks for
Fred has
Donald.
this. Yeah, go.
Donald Abrams is a hero in our story, and Donald, my instincts are radical, and Donald Abrams' instincts are not radical. They're liberal, and he can take his time. And he got in 1994, he wanted to do a simple study about, I think it might have been appetite, very simple study, and he got turned down by Alan Leshner, who was then running NIDA. And I asked him why he didn't. Could I write about it? Did he want to protest this? He said, "No, I want to apply again." And for him to wait 2 years to write another proposal was like, it was hard for me to realize that there are people who are calm and who understand how things work. He he was. We've kind of forgotten, and some of you guys are young and don't really remember the terror that AIDS brought to San Francisco and other communities where it was rampant. And there was a decade from the early 80s to the early 90s when people you knew were just wasting away. And the obvious benefit, the most obvious benefit of marijuana is the munchies, appetite. And for wasting syndrome, it was a perfect treatment. it restored appetite in people who had lost who couldn't hold food down. They were nauseous. With marijuana, they could eat. And that was the single biggest and most dramatic effect. And Abrams did the studies that proved it. But Dennis Perone, who had lost 100 friends by his own count, proved it with the Buyers Club. And while I'm rambling, the thing about the Buyers Club, the people were so desperate for anything that would help that they would take massive quantities of vitamins, and there was an Israeli egg yolk extract and lecithin, and any product that somebody had. There's something called Compound Q that was a cucumber extract from China that somebody was studying. And to get their hands on the original Buyers Club were for vitamins and these food products that the AIDS patients were desperate to obtain. So when Dennis thought that would be the model, I'll call it a Buyers Club, and he stopped, and that's how he defined his operation from about 1991 on. Anyway, I lost the track on Abrams, but I'll send you, Mark, I'll send you papers by and about Donald Abrams too, who also did great works with Guzman, a Spanish researcher,
Right.
on cannabis for cancer.
Manuel Guzman. Yeah, I'm aware of a lot of that research. So Fred, let me just ask you a different question. So Don, so this was contemporary with the adoption of medical cannabis in California, right? Which happened in
96.
96, right?
November
So
4th, 1996.
so were the Abrams studies restricted by NIDA needing to provide the University of Mississippi cannabis as opposed to the cannabis from the Buyers Club, which
Very
was
much
real?
so. That was the big restriction. That was it completely skewed the research.
Right.
People are not smoking nidawwana, they're smoking marijuana.
Nidawana. Yeah. Well, and Professor El Sole, who again is a great researcher at University of Mississippi. I mean, he always got tarred with being, in charge of the swag farm down there. But really, I mean, all of the research had to be not something that was beneficial medically. It had to be with something that NIDA was in the mission of, which was showing that this is a drug that can be abused and doesn't really have a spot in medical treatment. So it was very difficult to write a grant proposal that would be looked at as being, okay, we're really trying to demonstrate.
Impossible.
Yeah, I mean,
Impossible.
yeah, next to impossible. Well, if anything, things have sort of changed. I mean, you mentioned the CMCR down in San Diego, and there's other, universities and colleges doing research across the globe. Unfortunately, this recent shutting down of the NIH is really stifling to academic researchers who rely on NIH funding. And there's so much that I mean, you can't even write today to get a Schedule I license. You need a institutional review board review of your proposal. Especially if you're talking about administering to humans and not just doing like cell culture stuff, it's still very difficult to do research, even though
That's
there's
right.
a law that
That's
they've
right.
supposedly enabled and enacted to be able to do CBD and THC research. It's still a Schedule I material. And I don't believe with rescheduling, I think it needs to be descheduled. But even rescheduling is still going to not solve all of the problems. Just go back to Abrams for a second. So is he still actively at UCSF doing
Um,
cannabis research?
we've emailed recently, but not about cannabis research. I'm not sure he's I'm not just not sure where he's at right now. I doubt very much that he's doing cannabis research, but I'm not sure. His partner is a fellow named Clint Werner, who wrote a pretty good book on the subject.
Yeah, I follow Clint on Facebook. Dr. David Allen and I were going to be reaching out to Dr. Abrams here soon. We had something we wanted to contact him about with the Cannabis Journal Club, so we'll let you guys know if we hear back from him.
I've got
Yeah,
I'm really grateful for the opportunity to shoot my mouth off. I'm going to go to my files and find a half dozen pieces to send you guys that'll including Abrams and Guzman on marijuana for cancer, and Todd McRia and Dennis Perone and all my heroes. Thank you very much for the invitation, Ryan, Etienne, Wade, the guys I know, the guys I don't know. This was an upper, as we used to say.
Fred, you should come on again. You have so much knowledge to share. We'd love to hear you again.
Thank you, and we'll stay in touch.
Much love.
Adios.
so
Bye.
Thanks, Fred. Appreciate your time.
Be safe
for
out there,
sure.
Fred.
yeah, I was just going to add that point that I guess everyone knows too, that actually the weed that they're growing down there on the Schwag farm in Mississippi is moldy, right? Wasn't it Sue Sisley who tested some of that stuff and found
Me.
out?
I tested it. It failed molds and mildews.
Yeah.
Didn't
So-
pass the muster, eh? How about when Irv Rosenfeld was telling us that they just grind up the whole plant, stalk
Right.
and all, and then roll that into joints? We were all so mortified. We were just like, oh my God. It's like,
Wait till you smell it. It's the worst smell. I would not let LV light any of that up in my presence because
Hey,
the
man.
combination of
Hey.
all that, it's not good, people. Trust me. It's the
It's-
worst pot you've ever smelled.
Can I
Right.
chime in also? Hey,
Please.
it's also like Bedrocan. I don't know if you guys got a chance to ever smell some of that crap.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That stuff just is just like, what the fuck is that? You know? And to think that I'm going to smoke this? Hey, you guys, does anybody remember this shirt? I don't know if you can see it or read
Yeah,
it.
dude, the old Hindu Kush.
Oh, yeah, baby. You know what? Are we all smoking enough on this one, man? We got to keep ripping for Dave. That's the one thing. When you sat down one-on-one with Dave, you were going to get really fucking high. You know, on Christmas, Mark, I sat down with him. He opened up his jar of hash, and we did not stop smoking until Maya came, and she's like, you guys, it really is starting to smoke up the house. And that's how much you knew Dave loved Maya and his family, because he's like, okay, and we opened up the windows, man, and I think, as all of you guys know, at one point or another, we're usually forced out of the house on the holidays or whatever, and usually we'd have to go hide and smoke our bowl. Hey, Dr. Allen, I love
Hello.
seeing you, man. I respect you so much. You know, my name is Robert Lee Carroll, so there's a little bit of Southern in there somewhere. And you know, my dad loved history so much, and that's why I'm named Robert Lee. And my family does go back and go to the South, but steel heels. That is what I learned from you, my friend.
That's true.
And listen to the surgeons, man. You guys don't listen to those quacks. Those quacks don't know shit. They'll send you to the pharma, more like what Marcus has always said, harma. And you guys, that's the one thing with Dave. David was with me on video call a lot in the past 2 years and more. And you know, having a farm and having animals and having cows. I had my favorite cow, which David knew was called Milka. Okay. And when I'm bringing this up, why I'm bringing this up is it's not very far off from humans. And when someone is sick and Milka was sick, we call the doctor. Okay. Now the doctor came and he administered a shot. It wasn't, like a surgeon now. Okay. It's like a doctor. And I took the doctor out to eat. We came back. Milka was dead after the shot. Okay. Harma, that shot they give you, it's sometimes we have to be careful on the ranch. Here you guys and David, he knew about this kind of thing, but and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And you know what, Dave? He said to me, "Hey, man, did you pay the doctor? I hope not, for killing your cow." He knew, man.
That
You know what I
sounds
mean?
like Dave right there.
Yeah, man. And that picture that you put up there, Marcus. Well, not very much after that, right around Christmas time, those bulls were born. And I was coming up with names, you know what I mean? And I put one up on there and I said, "Hey, what do you think, David, about names?" And he's like, "Well, I'll tell you what, that one right there is Curly. And that one there is Mo. And that's Larry. You got the Three Stooges right there."
All right.
And Skunkman Sam fashion, just hilarious as fuck. Always joking, always, but a bullshit meter too. And when I was first meeting them too, and this would be, I mean, just back there, and Marcus laughed at this years back because I'm like, "Marcus, guess what, man? Dave just bitched me out for not knowing my longitude and latitude." Like I lived here in Spain and we were talking about growing and he's like, "Well, what's the longitude and latitude there?" And I thought to myself, "Holy shit, am I a dumb shit?" Because I knew in Wisconsin, but I didn't know here. But all I did know was this, that it was so similar to Humboldt in California growing here. And that's the one thing, you guys, if you could come here to Spain and experience the medicine capabilities of what is being grown here and what you can grow here with one plant. I'm talking, you plant it now and you harvest it 8-9 months later, a tree. And that is medicine. And that's what I used for that one event, the Blue River event, Marcus, with that plate of rosin. That plate of rosin came from one plant. You know what I mean? It's not a room full of plants. There's something amazing about that when we grow a plant to its full potentiality. And that's what I always
Dave was
loved.
certainly all about that. If he was breeding, he was like, he wanted to see what it could do.
And Marcus, was mentored, and I also with growing. This was the fascination, was that his knowledge all the way to the end was just he was like an encyclopedia. You know what I mean? And that's why we're all just like, fuck. But hey, let's keep going on. And what I learned, and if you were just starting out, like when I was just starting out, and I was talking to my brother Scott today, I said, "Scott, when did I start growing in our room that we shared together at Mom's house before our parents got a divorce? In my room, in the closet there. When did I start that? Because I just got the book." He said, "Well, Rob, that was 1979, 80. It was right there." And so, all you needed back then was the books.
Is that a first edition?
You know what? Let me just open this up here, guys. I just want to show you something. I was just reading something which is so amazing. Can you read that right there?
If you put it a little closer, I might be able to. You also have to speak so the camera goes back to
Oh,
your
okay.
camera. Yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
let's see if I can get this in here. Do you see? It's a first edition. I will read it to you if you can't. It actually just says, "For Robert, wow, what a rare first printing. Great to finally meet you. Enjoy." And Robert Cornell Clark was the other side of the coin of David. You know what I mean? David was just like, "Hey, let's go fucking have some fun. Yahoo!" And Rob was they're always, typing away, right? Working, thinking about the author. They were perfect for each other because David knew to hire the best, Robert Cornell Clark, and together, that's how they made leaps, light years ahead of the others. And you know what, you guys, to have a cover like this back in 1980 was like, holy cow, wow. And many of the drawings inside were done by Robert. So cool.
Super
So
cool. First
Yeah.
print too. That's insane.
First-
And yeah, I
first-
could tell
first
it was
edition.
Rob's. I could tell it was Rob's signature. I just couldn't read it very well because you've kind of got a little bit of a dark camera going on. You've almost got a
Yeah.
little bit of a Horatio thing going on
Always.
there.
I always do. It's probably, I think Sam always laughed about that. He always did.
Nice, dude.
Oh yeah. Well, time to smoke, you guys. That's all I can say.
I don't see enough smoking going on, that's for sure. I got my banger getting heated up. This little sort of D-nail universal banger here I absolutely love this thing. This is very convenient.
Nice.
No sound. I used to forget to mute my mic and then you'd hear the torch.
Oh, mute.
I still forget to mute my mic, but you don't hear the torch anymore.
Yeah, the D-nail thing is absolutely, yeah, Ryan and I've been using all week and he's been like, "Ooh, this actually works." Because
So
yeah,
good.
the torch scares people, it's people automatically
torch
have a
is
bad
scary, bro.
association.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's people think it's crack and it's just, and or they're like, "Where's the creme brulee?" So it's one or the other.
And how about
It's
this?
disappointment.
Everyone I know with a torch has a torch burn.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah,
not safe.
I have one too. I've definitely burned myself with my torch.
Oh my God, the old reaching over with the bare arm, like branding yourself right on. It's like
Kinds of stuff, man. Yeah.
Yes, it happens.
It's
It
it's the
happens.
hearing it before feeling it's the worst part.
Hey, how far are you, Dr. Allen, from where they grow that Mississippi weed?
It's up north about 3.5 hours. I've been there before. They won't let me visit. It's not open to the public. And
But you went there anyway?
Can't imagine
Yeah,
why.
I called Dr. Elsa Lloyd, and he said that they weren't allowed to have visitors because I was up there with David Singletary. David Singletary was running for governor on a cannabis platform, and so we both went up there to visit him, and he wouldn't have us.
Interesting.
Imagine the government grows the worst weed in the world.
They do.
Any surprises?
Paid for by your tax dollars.
Yeah, I remember
Like
reading
just
an
about everything
article-
else they do.
I remember reading an article about some cannabis people in Canada were asking to get some cannabis from Mississippi, and it was so bad that they couldn't even use it. And they returned it, I think.
Ooh,
It almost didn't qualify as marijuana.
got those paraquat terps.
Yeah.
It's
David,
cannabis adjacent. I think that's what the Mississippi marijuana is, It's marijuana light wannabe.
All right, well, I have a
What they're actually
suggestion for a
growing.
show.
What's your
So-
suggestion?
My suggestion for a show is it would be, now's the time. It's different times now. You can ship seeds all over the place, clones, the farm bill and all that. And hemp is actually maybe more important than marijuana in some cases. And so now that we could get seeds sent from everywhere, maybe we could take a collection up for Dave or maybe Wade Laughter or somebody, and get some money together and pay people in different cities to go, here, we're going to ship you a box of seeds, go plant these. Overgrow the government and the cartels.
Whoa,
Hey,
whoa,
can I chime in
whoa.
on there?
Yeah,
Can
go
I chime
ahead.
in on that?
Please do.
I'll tell you what, man. I have an abundance of seeds, as you know, from my years and years and years and years of breeding and just going on and having volumes. And I love you guys, Wade, so much. Josh and Kelly and all their ways of just vibing, and I want to contribute seeds. So I am willing, if we can kind of figure this out, to have a large portion of seeds. I mean, hey, you guys, let's face it. Let's say like a half a kilo of seeds, nice seeds, could go a long way. Dave would love that shit. Okay.
We'll never
And
stop
so,
planting seeds, that's for sure. I think it's
yes,
always a
that
good
David
idea to
Allen, that is
plant
But
genius.
seeds.
plant good
That
seeds.
is
Let's
genius.
let's
Yes,
not
plant good
plant
seeds.
crappy weed. Okay, we've got
No,
enough crappy
Rob,
weed growing. So
Rob
that's
definitely
right.
has good weed.
no,
I
no, no,
will
no.
say that.
I'm not
Yeah.
talking about Rob. I'm just trying to say was we were talking
Hey,
about like the
Etienne.
University of Mississippi. Just so you also know, Robert, I did speak to Suman from the University of Mississippi, who's apparently overseeing the grow now. I saw him at the USDA's Germplasm Institute in September, and he swears that they have a 22% THC in the ground at the
Oh, I
University of
believe it.
Mississippi now. So
I
I
believe
look
it.
forward to
Things have
seeing
changed.
it.
Oh,
But
yes,
the
yes.
other
They've,
thing, the thing that was very interesting that he told us was that the DEA came to them about a decade ago and had them destroy. They actually cataloged and then took it
oh,
down to
yeah.
the incinerator and destroyed their catalog of cannabis that they had collected from the 60s. That
Crazy.
happened in '09, and he told Robert Clark and I this twice because so yeah, there's his unfortunately a lot of germplasm history that was lost, and we're not sure why randomly in '09 that was the choice to do so. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they have lost their database, and that's why Cornell and others are receiving private database collections of germplasm from around the world now because they have to kind of rebuild what they thought they had, and it, was destroyed. So, thought it was an
Well,
interesting piece of history.
yes, and always remember this, that there have been so many cultivars that have been completely decimated due to the police, due to arrests, due to all over the world. You know, many times, just because of a bust, boom, there goes just a beautiful sour diesel or something
Yeah.
like that. Okay. And in Cali, this was happening all the time. Back then, that was just the difference today, Etienne. Remember, you had to be cool to know somebody or just to have good weed. It's not like today where just anybody can go and get good weed or have good hash. You really had to be cool. Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's the one thing too about Dave, that you guys, there was always somebody that was going to talk some shit about Dave, because the bigger you get, everybody remember this, the larger shadow you cast. Okay. And the more light you have on you, the bigger your shadow. So you're gonna get your haters, and that's really just kind of a sign, sort of what is going on. You can't please everybody all of the time, and that's the whole thing. Is sometimes, when you get to that level, that peak, people are gonna try to take you down. And that's what's sad, is kind of like I came to this with a hippie mentality, you guys, because really, honestly, and it's not only with cannabis because it's illegal and we come together, but with businesses, let's say, okay, with GR, and shout out to him, man, for his lights. I started my lead business in 2010. Okay, nobody believed in us, nobody. And the lead guys, you guys in the cannabis industry, we hung together. Why? Because nobody believed in us. And that's kind of like how we have to be now. We can't all be all separate and be all, with our egos. It's fine. Everyone has egos. Okay. But you know what? Here in Spain, even more than you guys in the US, we need to come together. Okay. And cannabis community, let's come together. Let's go to our grassroots, find out what works. Yeah. Etienne, you formed many of the early foundations there in Cali, and all your work now, man, you got a team because you did it, and gosh, you guys, I just think we got to keep plugging, we got to keep going, and let's teach, that this younger cat that's on the panel here. I'm sorry, what's your name? I love these guys, man. This younger generation that's coming, they're smarter, they're fueling it, they're learning from us, okay, and they're gonna take this. But you know what? I want to be more giving, man. I mean, I've always been kind of giving, but in this world, for us, you guys, the war's not over. So let's grow really good weed. You know what David also used to say, guys? You'd laugh at this. He used to say, I love to kill plants. Why would he say that? Because you guys, when you're breeding for your medicine and you're breeding for those specific terpenes, those specific cannabinoids, then you have to be very, very selective on what material you are using and breeding. Fire in, fire out. Okay. Don't go just growing. Grow the fucking fire, the very, very best. Marcus has that nose. I have that nose. You have to use that nose. Me, I love to smoke cannabis too, you guys. I love hash, but I also love cannabis because it kind of like lets me in tune to what profiles I want for hash. So anyway, that was my deal. Let's smoke one more, you guys. Marcus said on Facebook, he said, let's smoke a lot this Sunday. Let's do this, you guys. Fucking cheers, bros.
I'm ready for a dab.
That Robert. It's awesome, man.
Robert's passionate. Such a good dude.
Yes.
I'm gonna. You said let's come together. Well, I'll be in Spain for Spanibus next month, and
So
we can
cool.
come. We can come together there. Anyone else that wants to link up will be at Spanibus. Come check
Yep.
us out.
I'll be there. I'll look for you.
Wicked. Well, we'll definitely bump into you, Etienne. That'll
We'll
be
all come
awesome.
together, you guys, and have one for David.
Absolutely.
Our special link there.
We'll have to hit up Bobby from La Colada and see if he can put together the private room again, because I just don't want to expose myself to so much tobacco this year in Spain.
Oh my God, dude, we have to be careful. We have to be careful.
I can't do
Dude,
it, dude.
Oye, y yo hablo español, así que
It's
para
so
todos
gnarly, man.
nuestros amigos, todos nuestros amigos en España, os queremos mucho, y Márquez viene a Spanavis a veros todos. Así que para mi familia española, para Oil Hunters, Faisal, todos a vosotros, Spain, here we come. Much love to all my people here in Spain, you guys.
Spain has great resin. It's crazy.
It's
Of
come a
all the
long way.
places, it's come a
Marcus,
long way, dude. It's come a
do you remember
long, long
you
way.
had to bring it? You had to bring it before.
For
Now
years, for
you don't
years and
have
years.
to.
No,
Yes,
not for years. In fact, not for years. I haven't had to. It's so good. So I'm definitely down with. I think Jolly Roger's doing a jar check in Barcelona, and I told them I want to be a part of that. I want to do a jar tech. So hopefully I will end up doing that. Otherwise, honestly, if not, I'll do my own. I definitely want to be a part
Yep.
of a jar check. Totally inspired by Puffco. I suspect it'll be with Puffco. I was talking to James the other day, and I said, "Hey, yeah, if you guys are doing a jar check, I definitely want to be a part of that in Barcelona. I think that would be really fun." And man, let me tell you, people in Barcelona and the surrounding area of Spain and Portugal, they have really great resin for like the last, I'd say 10 plus years. It's been pretty incredible. So shout out to Spain. The soil there is really nice. The sun-grown resins are really nice. The way they express themselves are just different and fulfilling. Really quite lovely. I feel like anytime I talk about anything, I have a picture of it. And so I'll show some lovely Spanish grown resin, which you can see the darkness in the color of the resin. This is just air dried, and I just grabbed a tiny little bunch of the chunks and squeezed them into a little mini piece, and that's what I ended up getting right there. That was like 5 star for sure. Melted beautifully, has a really nice color. And Spain and Jamaica, just hot, nice soils. I mean, obviously Jamaica has the bauxite in the soil there. It's got the reddish soil, so a lot of the resin turns out red in Jamaica, but you do see it in Spain as well. I suspect from the heat of the sun, also maybe the genetics and the terroir. I can't exactly say, but I do know that the resin is a lovely. You can get the you know almost premature looking like white resin too from the obsessed mind of the hash maker that's cooled everything all the way through. But if they let it grease up a little bit, I personally love hash that looks like it could have come out of a freeze dryer in any country in the world is like great. I'm impressed, but what I'm really impressed with is like how does this hash like grease up? What does it do when it's in your environment? And Spanish resin is greasy, greasy. So I'm excited to go to Spannabis. I don't know if anyone else on the Hash Church panel is going to be there or if anyone from the Hash Church audience is going to be there. But if so, we should definitely make a point on linking up with myself and Etienne. And I'm sure I'll go by Terp's Army because Lorenzo's such a homie, but that is a place that they smoke a lot of spliffs and tobacco. So I'm not sure how much time I'm going to be able to spend there, as well as La Colada and HQ, David's place. Those are kind of like, and as well, of course, I go by Strain Hunters as well. It's a really nice shop, little space to spend, smoke some dabs in. Although I'll be honest, I prefer getting a really nice place and just hosting awesome people in a
I was just
smoke-free
gonna say,
environment.
why don't we just get an Airbnb with a nice patio or something like that, and just call it a day?
Yeah, well, I'll talk to my partner in Maryland because I think he's renting something or other. I'm not exactly sure. I'll see what's going on. But yeah, that would be great. It would be great to have a space for at least I know Kelly and Josh have been talking about it, so we can take it off stream and sort of plan, gathering, Hash Church gathering in Skunkman Sam's honor in Barcelona this during Spannabis. You gonna be there, Ryan?
Yeah, I believe I'm gonna go over. I want to
That'd be awesome.
see if I can help Diana get some things dealt with over there as well. So there's a lot going on,
Yeah, I wanted to go stop in on her as well.
and there's
Hey, I
probably this
also wanted to
Amsterdam.
chime in what you guys thought about this idea. Is that okay? Can you imagine? I would really love to take David's ashes and put them in such a way that it's almost on like a Facebook Live and then I just keep track of the growing and show the amazing sun-grown plant that is David. The whole process, you know what I mean? But do it more like video. I mean, that's just me. You know what I mean? With a skunk one, genetic, so important for me. That's all,
I think
man.
I think whether you did a video or updating it with photos, it would be a pretty cool idea. I'm sure you could grow quite a plant there. I know you got a green thumb. You're
Yeah,
definitely in a good area to grow a
yeah,
plant
yeah.
that Dave would be like, yeah, this is a
Video.
plant.
On video, show it,
Yeah.
man. Show the process. Oh, it's so glorious.
Be
He'll
cool. You
love
just
it.
have to figure out listen, I think it's a great idea, but you can barely get your phone working for a Zoom call. So you might want to put some extra attention into setting that up quite properly.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use my computer next time, bro, for sure. I
Yeah.
think that's the secret.
It is the secret. Or if you do use your phone, this is the key.
Yeah.
Put it down. Otherwise,
really?
otherwise you're like this the whole time.
Oh.
And you don't notice it, but other
Oh,
people notice
really?
it. And then people will be like,
Fuck.
dude,
Yeah.
you got to
You
tell
get-
people not to walk around with their phones, man. I'm getting sick over here. I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah, you get Zoom sickness. Hey, Robert, I got a question.
Yeah,
Since
man.
you're also a grower, what genetics do you like to grow, or some of your favorites?
Well, I'll tell you, skunk number one, first of all, is my ultimate, my brother. You know, back in the day when I came to Amsterdam and we were growing basically for interior rooms, what was going on was there was really just to be able to go to Amsterdam and buy everything. So that's what I did. I bought everything. And when we tried the Durban Poison, the Shiva Shanti, the Silver Haze, blah, 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 skunk one always tripped us off. So I stuck with that. However, I was always into genetics that I would find from weed that I was buying underground, black market. That was my big thing. Buying pounds and getting those seeds and saving those seeds and refrigerating them, knowing how to store them. Okay. But for me, it's sour diesel, bro. Skunk one. I love real gassy things, but I love real sweet things as well. And you know,
Dude,
when you're
Bagseed
talking,
Bob. That can be your new nickname. Bagseed Bob.
could be, babes. You know, I'll own that. You know, but
Well, you're
the
collecting
main-
you're collecting bag seed based on your olfactory, the experience that you're like, oh, these ones are special. I'm gonna put these ones
Yes,
away. That's
many,
kind of
many.
how we all started, dude. Like when you really
Yes.
think about it.
kilos,
was like
pounds.
That's all you could get.
That's
That's all it
all.
was, man.
Yeah.
At one point, for me,
Yes.
We were so lucky that they hadn't discovered a way, the way they do with fucking bananas and every other fucking fruit, to just
Right.
make no seeds ever. If there was an efficient way of doing that, we would have all been SOL. Every time a seed would be
Exactly.
found, it's funny that there was a time where people would be like, there was a seed in it, and be all super pissed off and choked. In the
Oh.
meantime, it's like, you mean the entire like genetic lineage of a phenotype
Yes.
of that particular population? Like, that sounds like a gift.
Exactly, Marcus. Yes, yes.
That sounds like a big gift. But also, as I got older, after growing quite a few crops, when people would give me seeds, I started feeling like that was less of a gift. And the reason I felt that way was in the beginning, I would get seeds from people I didn't want to get seeds from. And if you didn't know that and you took the time and energy to grow said seeds, holy shit, that's not like
Yeah.
wasting someone's weekend. That's like, oh, I'm gonna
Right.
fuck this guy for 3 months of his
Not
life.
good,
In
no.
fact, more,
Well,
because he's gonna be crushed for 3 months after that he grew. He's just gonna be like, what was I thinking, like for me to grow a seed, a gifted seed now, it would have to come from like Chimera or Fletch or like someone very well known for having like bomb seeds because I just oof the idea of spending that kind of time and growing bad seeds is it's just a crime. Fletch said it earlier, all we have is time. And if you have to spend 3 months growing bad weed, that is a crime.
This seems like a perfect time to ask you if you've grown those sweet skunk cross Congo seeds.
I've never grown the sweet skunk crossed Congo seeds,
I know,
but
but
I would.
you have some.
Oh, I have them absolutely. I would love to grow this. I mean, honestly, those seeds, I would love those seeds since I got them to like go to Jamaica.
Yeah, well, we should give you more of them then.
Yeah, I think so. Because that is for those of you that don't know, the sweet skunk, it will always be special. My wife, who does not use cannabis at all, has vaporized sweet skunk in the past. Like she's like, oh, that one's nice. It's just the happiest, nicest, just like most
It's fruity.
wonderful. It's just delicious.
Those, yes, the terpenes, man. There's something that's what David found with his magical nose, Marcus, like you. I asked him very specific questions about this. I said, how did you and Rob find that amongst the 3,000 plants? He said, we used our sniffers, man. And when we found that, and that's what it is, man. You could actually do it if you knew these things that he just did because he was ahead. But those, and you know what? Those terpenes and those cannabinoids do modulate and potentiate. They do, man. Your wife, she's proof. And people that smell that, my mom, you guys, I just want to put this in there real quick. She got cancer years ago, about 5 years ago, lost her, they took out her stomach, okay, and they gave her like 3 months to live. All right. I put her on cannabinoids, on cannabis, major doses, 500 milligrams, vaporizing edibles, you name it. Almost, if there were suppositories, we'd have used them. Mom lived just over 3 years. The doctors, they couldn't explain it. They were like, what's going on here? My brother's wife worked at the hospital. I said, you guys, I want to tell them. No, you can't. We'll lose our job. That's what happens, you guys. So the information doesn't go to the doctor. The doctor thinks he's magically doing something to keep this woman alive. Surely 3 years. How could we have said 3 months and now she's going past 3 years? The only thing that really got her, you guys, in my opinion, at the end was when all of a sudden we start to go to pharma and we start to use these other methods for pain. Okay. And you start to open up the can of opiates or you start to open up, cans of death, really. So cannabis, if we could just dial this in, you guys, and Dr. Allen, he knows the lab work. Meshulam, he didn't give a shit. He just went forward and forged. Marcus, you didn't give a shit way back when you knew about all the work that was going on with people being compassionate and that what happened to you at the beginning, but you were still passionate and teaching people how to have incredible hash medicine. Okay, so that's what we have to keep doing. This really comes down to lab work. This younger cat that's on here and Mark Scaldone, it's like, oh my God, we are so lucky to have them on our team. You know what I mean? What more do we still have the tools, the people. Let's come together and think of plans that we can we can make this all work for us in a way that it's gonna open it up. And in Spain here, you guys remember, we do not have medical. Can you imagine? We don't have any medical, nothing, no, nada. And it's because they haven't figured out a way how to really get it all in their pocket. And Robert Clark always used to say, look, we can't leave the government out of this. They have to have their slice of the pie, which is true. But however, we have to make it so that the people that know what the fuck's going on can get that proper medicine to where it needs to be, and make something of it and not get left out. Like David always used to say, hey man, when it comes to the pharma industry, I'm just a minnow. They're all sharks. You know what I mean? And that's what happens. We get eaten. Thanks guys, for that.
Yeah, Michael has a story he was going to tell about the Mississippi farm we were speaking about earlier, different perspectives. So why don't you go ahead there, Michael? Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, man. Before I do, just let me say a word or two in response to what Rob was just saying. I think it's a real tragedy that a lot of our people in our country, in the United States, Canada, many countries that have fairly good access to cannabis across the board don't have that kind of access in nursing homes. They don't have it in elder care. They don't have it in veterans homes. They don't have it in state hospitals. They don't have it in prisons. I mean, I could just go on and on and on with the list. And it's just tragic because these are, like we're very familiar, Wade and Etienne and I are all part of this Veterans Action Council. And every day, almost we look at the ticker of how many vets have taken their own lives. And, it's something that we really just don't fully understand, I guess, in medicine, how to prevent this kind of thing, how to deal with it effectively at the time of the trauma, maybe. But certainly cannabis has helped on multiple levels with that to, ease up the use of medicines that cause suicidal thoughts, to ease up the actual symptoms that may be pushing the person towards the edge and making them feel helpless and hopeless, as well as rebuilding relationships with others that can help be the final bridge that you can cross instead of hurting yourself. So anyway, I just want to say that. But
I totally agree with you. And you know what? I just want to add something to that. And that is that, if we think about this, and I just think about Dennis Peron and my activism days, you guys, I never missed a Midwest Harvest rally in Madison, Wisconsin. I was just always there pushing. And we learned something, you guys, and that is the door will open for our people when they're sick and they're elderly. The police and the politicians don't know what to do about them. They don't know how to deal with them. They certainly aren't going to be handcuffing them and pushing them around, okay? So these people are the way, and that's why I had an event here. It was called CannaMed. And Alexander Jayen, a patient from Germany, great guy, good, excellent person and friend, was really instrumental in showing all the benefits after such pain, and along with other patients at this event. We didn't have any problems with the police. We went, I invited them all, 75 patients, you guys. I said, you know what? Fuck it. I made some money with my LEDs, with CareLEDs at this year. I'm going to invite everybody. And I invited Robert Clark and Mila. And Mila had come to Ibiza. Okay, imagine this, for 3 days. And I did not know, you guys, that when we went on the boat, I said, we're going to call it a CannaMed cruise. And we were all puffing away, smoking hardcore, 75 people, imagine. The captain came out on the boat. He was like, what the? And we got to Ibiza. There's a customs. Did you know this? I didn't know it, but there's a customs. The customs, they said, fuck it. go ahead, go through, because we don't have room for you all. And don't worry. You know what I mean? So they turned their heads because they saw it was people in wheelchairs. Not all of us, but many of us. Okay. And so it was amazing what this did. It was like, you know, having an event showing the public the benefits, you see. So that's all I wanted to say, you guys. Sometimes that's the kind of thing we have to do. We have to kind of open up the box, think big, have events. It's not that hard, you know what I mean? And if you have it, they'll show. So thanks, man. Yeah, you're right on with your point as well, man. I just thought of that exactly as you were saying that.
Yeah, well, the last thing I'll say about it is I'm getting a little bit older myself. I don't know if I'll ever need like a assisted living or something like that, but if I do, I want one. I've already kind of pictured the front porch with these wicked cool rocking chairs with a built-in headset jack and a USB port and a little tube that you pull out for fresh vape. How about that for you know, my vision of the old age. But hey, this talking about Mississippi, it's always been something I feel like it's important to, you know, spread the truth. And I agree with you about the quality of the pot that our federal patients have been consuming for all these years. I think Irv is still getting a can every month. And Irv Rosenfeld, at one of our Patients at a Time conferences, he took some of the herbal material and he put it in a vaporizer. That was like the second year that Volcano was in the United States, and they used a Volcano vaporizer and put some of that plant material. And I'll tell you this, it was the very first plant material I've ever seen put in a Volcano that actually smelled worse than it did when you were like smelling it or burning it. I mean, vaporizer always smells better. It always smells better, but that's an outlier. That pot was horrible. But this is where I get into the story, right? So two-part story, the old and the new, or the old and the not so old. And the old is I met up with the guy who was running the ICRS years ago, Professor Musty. He's a real cool guy. He talked about all this different research that he's doing. And he put in a research request one time with the you know, powers that be, and actually got it approved and got some cannabis for his patients. And he got whole cannabis, flowers and tops. He didn't get rolled joints. Very important. And he reported to me some of the experience, subjective experience of his patients, where they had anxiety attacks and, you know, things that indicated to me that this was relatively very, very potent cannabis. In fact, maybe even cannabis that I might venture to call good. So rectifying that with Irv Rosenfeld and others' experience is really, really hard. But this is where it gets fast forwarded a little bit. I went to a conference that one of these hardcore landmarks of prohibition put on. This guy, professor in New York, Professor Nahas, Gabriel Nahas. And Gabriel Nahas, if you don't know him, Google him. He had the whole cannabis prohibition on his back for a little while, him and Senator Eastman, I think it was. But anyway, Professor Nahas, tenured professor in New York University, was very upset when the National Institutes of Health had a big cannabis shindig and didn't invite him. So he decided he's going to have one at New York University that's got better names than the NIH, than the Academy of Science put together. And I think he did actually accomplish that. Dr. Mechoulam was there, Dr. Morgan was there. You know, there were some pretty neat people that actually presented at his conference. And one of the people there was a guy who worked in the Duke Research Triangle, rolling the joints for the federal government of the marijuana from Mississippi. This is the Duke Research Center, Duke Triangle in North Carolina, where they actually rolled the cannabis. And he told me a story. I asked him, I told him about Dr. Musty, and I said, how come you can't just send them the flowers and tops? And he said, well, they didn't ask for that. And I said, well, how come you ruined the joints? And he told me, well, back in the day, they wanted to make marijuana cigarettes for Bob Randall. Bob Randall won a court case against the federal government, and his lawyers asked for cigarettes. So they go to down here in Virginia to the tobacco companies, and they say, hey, how do you roll a cigarette? And they say, well, we got these old cigarette rolling machines. You can take one of them, try it out, see if you can roll joints of your marijuana. your cannabis. And they took that to Duke Research Triangle. They found it impossible to roll. It was too sticky. You got caught up in the machine. What they figured out was they could desiccate the plant material, run it through a beater bar system. Once the beater bar got done with it, the sticks and the seeds, and I imagine anything medicinal, was on the floor. And what was left was this leafy mix that they would rehydrate and then turn around and stick into the machine to roll, and then dehydrate it again, put it in the tin, and put it on the shelf. And Irv Rosenfeld told me at times his tins had dates that were over 10 years old. 10 years of sitting after being beaten to death, dehydrated, rehydrated, and then
Dude, and he loved that shit. How about that?
And he loves this stuff. Yeah, he does. Yeah. So, but anyway, I'll leave you with this. Somewhere, they probably got rid of it, but somewhere there undoubtedly was like a 55-gallon drum of keef somewhere in Mississippi University that they just considered waste product. Just think about that.
Oh my God. That's painful to think. They're like, we gotta get this pesky resin off this plant. It's not rolling and dehydrating properly.
It's
Oh
coming
my
up the
goodness.
works. We have to beat the resin off of it so,
Oh,
it's less sticky.
oh my God. That's actually
We add some salt
definitely
to it.
accurate.
What do you think, Bob? It's like
Yeah, just
Hey,
cut it
Dan,
down
I
on
have
the
a question
soil.
for you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Like, I wanted to know what you think about, for instance, marijuana becomes legal in a state. I'm talking about recreationally, medicinally, blah, blah, blah. Maybe, no, let's go beyond that, federally. Is it possible for people then, or will it be more possible to get their rights back, so to speak? I mean, isn't that like the federal government's kind of like admitting, like, oh, we were wrong, sorry.
Robert, this is our expertise. The reality is pretty simple. We didn't lose all our rights at once. We're not going to get them all back at once. We have a lot of work to do, and we're doing that work now. Michael and I are working at the UN. We're also working at the US level because the US is head so far up its ass, we have to go around them. So we're going around the US's head up its ass, and then we're going to work at that level, get it popped out, and then eventually the US will pop its head out of its ass. But it's reliant on you people watching to get your fucking rights back. Get off your asses, get involved, stop participating on the sidelines, and actually put your money in your ass where your mouth is.
Did he say you people? You're canceled, buddy. No, I'm just joking. Although I will say that John Cherry lost his job at Hockey Night in Canada for that very same statement. It just had different context when he said it. But I will get off my ass and I will do something. I'm happy to do that. I feel like I'll just do it.
And I do feel that, that the activism that I did back in the day did something, but it was like we didn't feel like we should stop. We have to keep going.
You're unmuted. That's why I think good.
Oh, but we have to keep going. We just have to keep going. And I mean, it's one of those things, like I think a lot of us think like, hey, we want our rights back. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's frustrating for sure.
Well, yeah, I think it's it's a weird dichotomy and a juxtaposition that we're in, I think, across the world, because, there's countries and states that, as we've all called out here, that we can freely buy cannabis, grow cannabis, and, that's our right as a citizen of that particular state. So yeah, there is something wrong with that. And I think that's what we have to continue to fight for, not only that, but also our right to grow commercial cannabis the way that we see needed for the patients. There's a long way to go for all these things, and
Right on.
I know ATN
And, David
others are
always
leading
says, you
that.
guys, David always said, hey, I think that everybody should be able to grow cannabis if they want to, however much they want to, in just like as if it was tomatoes. Now, my question is for you guys. Imagine this. I lost my daughter to that. Okay. I have been trying desperately to get in touch with her. It's been 16 years. She's 19 years old now. All right. She's with a family. Imagine this, you guys. I've been able to locate the family who has my daughter biologically now, biologically, all the respect and love. I try to contact these people and they hang up on me. And they're like, yeah, you had a drug factory. Boom. You know what I mean? Now, you guys, my daughter is autistic. It didn't help. I was a single parent. All right. I had everything on my shoulders, and it's crazy for me, you guys. I'm just trying to figure out, like, what do you guys think that I legally, I think I should be able to somehow, if someone contacts my daughter, for instance, and says, hey, look, are you aware that you have a dad biologically? I say that because although she's autistic, I found out she was in a regular school. Okay. That says a lot. All right. And all I just want to say is that, if you've ever lost a child, you guys, in some way, it's the pain of that is just, it's something you just never get over. And David, you guys, was a force for me, man. And even like Soma and these guys, they're like, Rob, one day you are gonna see your child, dude, one day. And for me, you guys, it's I don't want to break down because I told myself, I gotta stay strong, man. But I'm telling you, man, there's been real casualties in this drug war, you guys. And there have been people who fought for our rights. I fought for our rights, you guys. It didn't help because I still lost my baby, but I have not lost hope and in ways. And you guys, Marcus, years ago, we kind of like talked about this. And for me, it was kind of like a flourishing because I was like, like I'm here. I'm on the other side of the pond, you guys. I'm on another continent. I was with you guys, man. Some of us got like pushed off the boat. And that's it's crazy, man, because it's like I want to try to get back, but all I want now are some very, very basic things. It's like some communication and something like that. And sometimes I think, well, you know what? Maybe my hash family, maybe my cannabis family has better ideas or knows better, because I'll tell you, I'm going to keep fighting. I will not give up. But for me, I don't know, you guys, it's a war still. It's crazy because I don't know what's going on over there. Imagine not being over there in the US since 2009. It's been a long time, man. And I miss you all a lot. But I've been foraging with my genetics, which is not a bad thing, all alone with my animals and really just keeping in touch with my friends, with the phone. But other than that, man, I've been here, dude, and I will tell you something, that you never give up with this kind of shit until death do us part. You know what I mean? With our loved ones and these things, they all have solutions as long as we're still here. And my mom always told me that, you guys. And my mother was a very intelligent woman, a professor at a university, okay, and at UWM. And I will tell you that she always gave me this advice, that there's a solution for everything in life. every problem you will have, you can find the solution, except one, and that's death. There is no solution. So that's why you guys, it kind of gives us all a reason to keep forging ahead, and the youngest dude on the panel here, I'm sorry I didn't get your name, man. The guy with the hat, what's your name? Yeah, I love you, man. Because
Colin
this
P.
guy, is going to
I
be a
love how you think
giant.
I'm young, but thank you.
Colin 63.
It's Colin.
Dude, I'm Benjamin Button over here.
He's got it. He's got it, man. He's got
Much love though, man. Thank you.
yeah, like Sam.
Thank you.
I think we all try to reach out. Rob Clark. We can see these guys because that was like us. It's so bizarre, you know what I mean? You see this cycle, you know what I mean? And these heads that are now, they're so smart, man. You know what I mean? And they're forging ahead. And it's just crazy how things are changing. And I think you guys in 10 years, we're gonna freak at what's happening. Just look at what we've seen in the past 10. Okay? Mind blowing.
It's going to be insane, dude. There's no doubt about it. I'll definitely be here 10 years from now. I hope.
Oh yeah.
Wanted to welcome Brian onto the panel. He just rolled through. It's been a bit since we've seen you, bro.
Hey. Nice to
How
see
you-
you.
How you doing?
Doing well. Just staying busy here.
Staying busy, growing weed, picking varieties.
Yeah, doing that work here and some indoor chores. The few folks that I work with here that I hire get the weekend. So little indoor work and snowstorm yesterday. And yeah, so just hanging out now. Nice to see everyone.
Absolutely, man. Glad to have you on here. It's been it's the aftermath show of losing our dear friend Skunkman Sam, the howdy man himself. So we've just been telling stories. Fred Gardner came in a little earlier. That was really cool. Dr. David Allen was here a little bit earlier, and otherwise we've just been sort of shooting the shit, telling stories, and that was very heart-wrenching, Robert. So I definitely heard your words and feel for you, brother, and I'm sure we'll figure something out. I definitely think you'll see. I always used to say this to Rick DeLisi, actually. When I first met him, he was like, my dad's been in prison for like 28 years or however many years it was. It was a lot, like an insane amount. And at that time, my father had passed away. And so Robert had said, there's always a solution for everything except death. There's no solution for death. It's like, exactly. So unless there's death, you don't have to ask the community even, there's a solution. You just have to find it. And that's the challenge of life, finding the solutions to our problem. And I certainly hope you find the solution to that problem, brother.
Yeah, and Marcus, one thing too, man, that goes through my head. I don't know if any of you cats know. Marcus's dad was big on Harley Davidson. So is Marcus. Okay. My father worked at Harley Davidson for 45 years. All right. The bikes that many of you guys rode on, my dad worked on because they were on the line. All right. And I was on my dad's shoulders during the strike of AMF and Harley Davidson. Instead of going to school that day, my dad took me. He's like, oh no, we're going to the strike. And guys that look like 420 D, big tough guys with beards and stuff, I would shoot them with my gun on my dad's shoulders, and they would play dead. So I don't know, you guys. Harley Davidson and the model that your dad had, what was that, Marcus? What year?
2003 Road King Classic.
Beautiful, man. Just beautiful. That's the full dresser, I believe.
Yeah, white walls, fully dressed.
Oh, beautiful, man.
Big fat.
That's here's a shout out to all the people at Harley Davidson and all the workers. My love, and Milwaukee. man, and that's just it, man. It's like we got to preserve those things. Sometimes, we don't have our peeps, but sometimes we have those things. Sometimes, we have that pipe, or we have that bike, and gosh, I don't know. It's like there's some magic there, man. So that was all I wanted to say, man.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I've smoked myself, not quite into a coma, but definitely into like talking less. I'm just kind of like listening and super baked. Been smoking some full melt. You don't realize, you forget. I don't know how you could, but you do. That every single rip of full melt gets you like that much higher. It's not like when I used to smoke joints, I would just get to a point where I was just smoking joints, but I wasn't getting any higher. I had sort of hit a ceiling, and that's what kind of led me to extracts and hash making and smoking the oil dabs back in the early 90s with those Holy Smoke guys from Nelson. And then getting into dry sift in the mid 90s, and then discovering full melt hash, bubble hash in the later 90s was yeah, you just each rip it's like, how about this? No ceiling, keep taking a dab and getting more and more and more high. That is, I just want to say this from the bottom of my heart, a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing.
Dude, hey,
Indeed.
do you guys know the story about David and the do?
Oh, who told the do story, Ryan?
Well,
I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
we,
Now, hold on. No, you've got to remember, because I was there for Christmas, and I was going to be smoking Dave out, okay, in Spain here. And I come in my Firebird. Imagine this, you guys. I'm here in Spain, and I've got a Firebird, a 1989.
of course you
Okay.
do. That's fucking
Yeah. So I
awesome,
arrive
dude.
on the scene, and
David Lee
Dave
Roth.
has this Puffco, and he's like, "Oh no, man, guess what?" I'm like, "What, dude?" He's like, "I fucking broke my Puffco, but don't worry, I got it all figured out. I got a solution." He all of a sudden pulls it up. He's like, I call it the do, and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, MacGyver," and I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, check it out," and so he's like, "Look, man, it works." So I was like, I mean, before he left, I was trying my hardest to get him a new piece. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want him to be here like the rest. But it was just so fucking hilarious because, dude, I smoked with him. We dude the Christmas, and that the Puffco, it performed the way he did it. It was broken in such a way you would have cut yourself. Okay. And he put it on there, and it reminded me of like I don't know, one of those space missions where you're like, yeah, man, we're losing oxygen. What do we do? And he knew what to do, man, and he kept getting high. And yeah,
That's so crazy because the Puffco crew wanted to lace
Shout out
him
to
up.
them.
They wanted to lace him up so hard. And then I feel like I think I reached out to him or something. He was like, "Oh, I have one already." And I was like, "Oh,
He
okay."
was
Well, they were,
hardcore Puffco. You know
yeah.
that? He was hardcore Puffco.
Well, he was
So
hardcore using whatever device he had access to in the moment
yeah,
to get high. I think is the
yeah,
most accurate way to say.
yeah.
He definitely. I still haven't talked to Martin from Ruhr, but I'd love to have Martin on to tell some stories as well because
Oh, he'll come on.
he was all
He will
about.
come on for sure.
Oh, I know, absolutely. I've known Martin for 25 years, man.
You guys,
He and Martin go way back. Yep, look at that,
yes,
the Ice Master.
you gotta love it, babes.
That's a
It's
big
the
one,
only
dude.
thing I smoke out of, and you know that David used Roar big time,
Oh yeah,
time.
he loved
So
Roar, no doubt about it.
yeah,
I loved Roar for a long time. I got to a point, and I'm not sure if Sam ever got to this point, but the smaller the pipe, the more I'm kind of like right now, like this is one of my favorites.
Yes,
I just want to
it's
get the
smaller.
dab to like, yeah, it's just like it's almost so concentrated, it almost precipitates
Yes,
back into an oil faster, but you
you
get
were
like
right.
way less oxygen uh, period.
You know
So
who I
I
learned
quite
that
like
from,
that.
dude? It was
You know,
it was
Marcus?
here in
What's that? Sorry.
Spain from the great gardener. The smaller the pipe, the more boom, you know? And
Right. Sorry.
anyway, yeah,
What were you saying, Colin? Sorry, we were
Oh,
talking over you
they're more
there.
like sippers, you know, like it's like a more of a sipper than like a big long stem that you're pulling hard up into, you know.
It's a sipper, not a ripper, but I get huge rips off of it.
I know, but like it's a sipper that you get big rippers from, you know what I mean?
It's a
It's
sip ripper.
yeah. I have a mothership that's like just like that, like this one.
A little shippy?
I have this guy here, which I love.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a real nice one.
And it's like a perfect, and Scott explained it. He's like, it's a sipper. I was like, I know, but I get, like you said, I get rips off this bad boy.
I'm on the
It's
older model, the ball rig.
yeah, I got this when I was in Bellingham at the studio, and
I
it flew
remember.
out. It's beautiful. I mean, I was had it for the weekend and I ended up just coming home with it.
I probably would have picked the same one, honestly. I like the size. I like that it's just small. I like the exosphere. I like
Yeah,
that style of pipe.
it hits really beautifully in the bottom, and it has this like you can see right through it, and it has like this beautiful work on the inside of it. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's just Scott's mind in glass form.
100%. It's amazing. And there's like there's like a series of life on here. Like there's like all these different monkeys in
You have
different
to hold
phases.
it in front of your body
I'm
or your
sorry.
head so we can see it. That's
Let's
okay.
see if you can
If
see
you
that.
hold it back even further from your face, because the more, yeah, then it'll show up good. Now you just have to talk.
So right here, there's monkeys across the front in different stages of life. And on the inside, it's similar. It has all this different, yeah, all this different work and snowflakes on the bottom. It's very it's yeah, the more colored.
It's a great pipe.
Yeah, Scott did a great job. It's one of one. It's cool.
Oh,
Thank you,
who,
Scott.
who
Beautiful.
doesn't want a one of one bong from Scott Deppie?
Yeah, and the airflow. The thing that I've noticed about Scott's work is it's effortless when you pull out of his work. I know there's others that have that same functionality, but
No, it works as good as it looks. It's always
it
like
does.
it's deceivingly perfect.
It really is. Yeah, it's kind of awesome. And so there's uh there's other ones in his studio that were really cool. He's just got a great different functionalities of different styles of lines that he's done. I start to appreciate it. When I was in the studio, I could see it all together. I really appreciated all of the different ways that he thought about it.
Well, there's so many things that go on from growing herb, really just to the acquiring of genetics, how you go about doing that, how you go about planting the genetics, how you go about growing them, how you go about like processing them and whatever you process them into. And it's just there's so many different potentials for error and mistake. And then you can not only that, you can geek out on the different materials that you're going to vaporize it off, or the shapes of this that the smoke is going to take on before you inhale it, and the different types of filtration that is available. Like every single thing you can nerd out on to the nth degree. And Scott Deppie is kind of the highest order of the glass. Originally the first Scott Deppie character I met was Jason Lee. Jason Lee was very much in his mind. He was the one, like he's the one that learned this double bubbler weld and then just showed it to like everyone. He just showed it to everyone in Bellingham, like 15 different glass blowers. Like he wasn't like, if Jason had kept that, and even those blowers back then said to me, yeah, like seriously, sure, we probably would have figured it out eventually, but like Jason figured it out. It was the perfect. And the minute he did, and he showed Slinger and D-Rec and Pedro Smiley and all these other guys, Max Poland, there were suddenly so many amazing double bubblers. Like, I'll be honest, this pipe from Max is probably only a year, maybe two, after Jason discovered this double bubbler weld. Maybe not even. So
Jason was
shut
like
up.
the Rodney Mullen of the pipe world.
Yeah,
He invented a
absolutely.
lot. He invented a lot of the tricks.
Absolutely. Him and Marcel Braun, because Marcel Braun took
Yeah,
it to
great
the next
analogy.
level. Marcel was developing like tools that would help, that the techniques required. So it wasn't only like a technique, but he was also like not jerry rigging and using some other, he would like design the tool itself. I mean, the first time I saw him blowing glass in that spacesuit, I was like, "What? Why did you have that on?" He's like, "Oh, just so I don't burst into flames." When they were doing that monster pull from like a second story, it's like this thick. They're pulling this crazy. It might have been for his coins, actually. That I can't even remember. But yeah, Jason and I picked Jason up as a hitchhiker on my way to fish tour in like Portland or something. I think we were on our way to the gorge, and I actually picked up Marble Slinger. And when I picked him up, he's like, "Oh, I have two friends." And I was like, "Oh no, like this nightmare." Like his two friends are going to be train wrecks. In fact, his two friends were Jason Lee and Jason Lee's girlfriend, who did like all of this um sort of wook wear, if you will. She did all the um corduroy patchwork wook clothes, cool pants and hoodies and stuff. And so you can imagine hooking up with those guys on my way to see fish at the gorge was, to say the least, a very good time. A very good time was had by all. And yes, we ate psychedelics, and yes, we smoked cannabis and hashish. And yes, I had not chosen the silly moniker Bubble Man yet to represent me for the next 2.5 decades, but I would, within a year of meeting them, I would. Good
At
times.
what point do you become Bubble Elder?
I don't know, man. Fuck. When people are mad at me, I'm Bubble Boy. I know that much. I can hear it in the way they say it. Oh, hey, Bubble Boy. I'm just kind of like, I feel like the way you're saying boy is like the way you would say goof. And unfortunately, I'm from Winnipeg. I just can't stand by and allow that. But no, just joking, honestly. But I have had people who are mad at me say, "Hey, Bubble Boy." Oh shit, this is serious. It's calling me Bubble Boy. But Bubble Elder, I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm many decades away from being an elder. But I guess I'll blink. Is that how it happens, Wade? You blink and then you are. That's how it happens. I knew it, dude. I knew it. I mean, I didn't know it, but the mushroom knew it, and it told it to me a couple of times in some deep-seated terrors of mushroom experiences. Hey, don't worry about it, man. Just gonna blink, and this will have almost been transpired. It is wild to think at 51 years old, when I look back at my life, it seemed to be like, I don't know if it's decades or dual decades or what the pattern is, but yeah, we live multiple lives, like the life I lived as a child certainly wasn't the life I lived as a 20 and 30-year-old. And the last 20 to 30 years have certainly been, as a parent and a husband, has been quite different from the early years. So I personally am looking forward to as many more years as possible, but I do recognize the fact that we're dealt a certain amount of time here, and what you do with it, how you spend your time, and what you do for others is kind of, I guess it decides if you are happy in your life. Such a simple thing, happiness, but not too many people can always find it. Except I
One more
feel,
chillum we will smoke, my friends. One
yeah,
more
one
chillum.
one more chillum we are smoking. Yes, that's Pashupati from India. I met him in 1998, and anytime someone evokes his quote, because he would look at me after we smoked about 20 grams of Nepali charas on the banks of the Ganges in Haridwar, North India, close to Rishikesh, actually, where the Beatles went to meet the Maharishi, the Maha, whatever his name was, guy. I almost said the Maha Vishnu Orchestra. That would have been good. He went to, yeah, up in India to meet John McLaughlin and the Mahavishnu Orchestra. just rewriting history on Hash Church. It's not true,
When
actually.
we
'cause-
see each other again, we will recognize each other, even in other lives, my friends.
Yeah, well, I
Even
will
in
say,
other lives.
I will say one thing about Pashupati, this guy that I met in India on the banks of the Ganges. He told me, and he wasn't really like, like some psychic dude or whatever, but he did tell me that I would have 3 children. And I remember being like, whoa, this guy is wise and he knows stuff. And then I had 2 kids, and I was like, fuck, I guess that guy was just guessing and he didn't know shit. But then
He knew,
11
man.
years, 11 years after my second child was born, I had a 3rd child, which was, well, my wife had it, but I was a part of it.
Cheers to him, Marcus. Cheers to
And,
David Watson. I am so fucking stoned, you guys, but I don't care.
all right, well,
Because-
put that bong in your mouth. Put that bong in your mouth. Put it in your mouth. Light the bong. There we go. Look at that. Robert's ripping it. I can't wait to see you in Spain, dude. We're gonna have fun. It's gonna be a nice Spanibus. Indeed. Well, that's a ripper, not a sipper. That's a giant. That Ruhr, did he just bounce? No, okay, he's still here. That Ruhr that Robert has, it's like the Zuma 8.0 or something. It's like the fattest Ruhr that Ruhr makes. It's a killer. For anyone that's ever hit that Zuma Ruhr, it is it's like inhaling a liter of oxygen before the hit hits your lungs. Like, it really is not a bong for the weak or the meek. That is a bong for old iron lungs, like someone that does not
Like a gravity bong, that thing.
Yeah, well, seriously, dude. It's got
Lot
a
of air.
massive amount of volume in that pipe. Like, it might be, honestly, like 3 or 4 liters of water might fit in that pipe. So you're not wrong in the sense. My gravity bong from Ham takes over a gallon of water, which is a lot of water. He passed out.
That'll do it.
Wow, Robert's box now looks like it's just pure smoke. Like, it looks like you can't see anything other than smoke.
No, Robert has transcended into the smoke. He
He
is
has.
the smoke.
He is the smoke. Holy shit. Robert was very upset he couldn't come on Skunkman Sam's tribute show. Yeah. So it's nice to have him here today, sharing with us
Oh,
like
God,
the utter
so
and complete
happy.
fucking maniac that he is.
So happy to be with you. You said it, man. And I'm sorry, next time I will be on a computer. I won't be all and yeah.
And walking around, you won't walk around with your computer either.
I'm so high, man. So high.
I know you are, brother. I know you are. That's awesome. That was it.
Oh,
I just told
God.
everyone about your bong. That's the Zuma, right? Is that what it's called?
That's right.
Yeah, so that's like,
I heard everything you were saying.
What's the
Yes.
volume of that bong?
It's fucking, you have to have lungs, man. And you guys, you don't underdetermine people who want to smoke cannabis. I love hash. I love pure sift. I love rosin. Won competitions with them. You know that. Won the Dabadoo several times. But the deal is that many patients are going to tell you, oh, I like the flowers. And nature has done this. Nature has given us the medicine in a form that if we're not up to the potentials to be able to make that hash, sometimes we can, if it's high enough grade flower, we can smoke it as is, and boom. If you take a really big hit, believe me, I'm smoking all the cannabinoids almost that you guys are with just pure hash. And it's such a natural, quick form. You know what I mean? But fire in, fire out. You know what I mean? And David Watson, he was the king of being able to find these cultivars, align himself with Robert Cornell Clark. This book, you guys, it's going to be in a new edition. Okay. And gosh, I will just never forget when I was at the bar. It was like magic buying Robert Connell Clark a beer. Actually, at the time, I did not, drink at all still. And I was like, dude, did you hear about Marcus and Hash Church? Dude, it was like he'd only had one episode going on at this time. And I was like, dude, you got to go get on this. This is perfect for you. And I just, man, this is great. And all of a sudden, Marcus shows up. It was like a really weird, like, and it was like, hey, man. And I was like, yeah, Marcus, I was just talking about you, man. And it was also like at Spanibus, Marcus, do you remember when Jeff Church had come and you and I, and we were talking, us three, and it was right at the beginning. And it was like, yeah, Hash Church, man. And it was weird because it was Jeff Church had like his name, but you were like, no, like Hash Church for everybody. And what you did, it's bigger than all of us. This will go on, you guys, for years and years. Here's to the future, you guys, to 10, 15, 20 years. I want to say hello to all of you. Keep working, keep going. These guys were your giants. That's all, man. You got to think of that. Think of the future, you guys. And I don't know. I wish I could have brought up and I just want to say one more thing. The reason that Skunkman Sam took you under his wing, very much so, and me too, is because he didn't have a son, you guys. All right. And I asked him about this. And I was like, hey, man, well, how come with your genetics and that and your seeds, like you're not like going on with your seed banks? And he's like, well, I have daughters and they're not interested in that. Okay.
Well, that's really the place that Ryan Lee falls into, because Chimera truly was.
That's why he liked us, you guys. Yes, and it reminds me of my mom, you guys, who had two boys, and she always wanted a daughter. And that's why she was always trying to, and my neighbor, you guys, who was a girl, said, you guys, your mom used to try and lure me over. And it all came to we realized, wow, she didn't have a daughter. And that's what happens is like, if you don't have that in your life, you kind of like, it's just weird, man. But he kind of chose us. Like, are we not honored or what to have been like that? To get calls from him, video calls.
Listen, I think Hash Church was the same thing in a sense for everyone else, that we just they had a place. He could come, he could talk.
Diana,
that's what it is
the
for,
whole family. Yes, man. Ryan, Fletch, all of you guys, man. You're like, we are all bonded, you guys, in this. What a magical time to all be alive and together and coming together. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, man, we've got to just hold on to this moment and try to make it something that will be positive thinking, guys, positive motivations, positive thoughts. Let's go on. Every time Marcus, when you said put up a photograph in the grow room of Skunkman Sam, fucking A, dude.
Hey, I think Colin just mentioned he's bouncing here. Sort of interrupt. You taking off, Colin?
Yeah, I got to get going. I'm sorry to miss the last hour here today. Next week I'll be free for the full leg. But
No problem, brother.
I love you guys
Bye,
all.
Colin.
It was nice to meet you.
Thanks,
and
man. Yes, brother.
Sam was
Cheers,
very
bro.
important to all
Bye,
of us.
young fellow.
Thank you, my beautiful young, my Benjamin Button. So I just wanted to say, Sam, I think was so important to all of us for so many reasons, and I think the underlying theme here is that we need to carry the torch on and carry the things that he embodied on, and continue to have a good bullshit radar and call those things out so we have a better conversation and open conversation. I think that's the thing that I always got from him, is he always wanted people to see the full picture, and I think that meant having a harder conversation at times, and so he was hard on people, and it pushed you, and as Marcus said, it made you better for it, and that's really unique. There's not a lot of people that want to be that way with you, and that's a special friend, you know. And Marcus, you're lucky to have found that in someone so early in your career. You know, I mean, it's
Yeah,
just
dude,
really,
and remember this too. He was just always so funny. He was always, like messing with you. And sometimes you didn't know if he was serious or not, you
yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
cool. So cool. But
And how,
cheers.
you know, I just want to say that, you know, Marcus, I think we're all so thankful, and I know I'm so grateful for your ability to share that with everyone around you. You know, you saw that um he had the ability to share knowledge with everyone in a graceful, he wasn't talking at you, he was talking with you. And that's really unique, and someone that has spent their career doing on a subject matter um, that is so complex as the one that we love so much.
I remember like passing out to David ranting about something. He had just done some huge dab, and David was on a rant and just like fading out of consciousness for a moment and like waking up my eyes and having David just standing over me, pointing in my face, still on this rant about something intense about cannabis. Man, he was such a gem, that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, sorry, had to share. Had to share.
No, that's amazing. I want more of that because, you know, you out of anyone, I think, have spent so much intimate time with him in Amsterdam over the years. I think it's really, you know, unique perspective. And I love that. So thank you for sharing. With that, thank you all. Mark, Wade, Etienne, Marcus, Mike, Brian, Ryan, peace, y'all.
Cheers to the young one.
Peace out to the young one on the panel with the hat.
Young man.
Peace out.
Good
Peace
now. Be
That's what's
good.
up. That's
Peace,
what's
y'all.
up.
Love you, Mom. Peace.
I'll do my best to maintain the sofa rants in the future. But
Yes.
I don't know if they'll be PC enough for public consumption.
Hopefully public consumption is a little bit more. Hopefully it opens up a little bit more what can be shared with public consumption, because yeah, we've made that box pretty small these days. Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know. I guess I don't know if anyone else has anything to say, or if we want to call it a little bit shorter today. It's just kind of a quiet energy today. I don't quite have the same panache of past
We
episodes.
went through a lot this week,
It
man. I
was a
mean,
lot,
just
dude. It was a
we
lot.
well, it was already an emotional. You lost a mentor, we lost a friend, right? And then we all immediately went into whatever we can do for the family and Diana mode, and we did that. We also put together tributes in two different places. You were able to broadcast them. I mean, we put in a lot of work. I mean, and I spent yesterday 8 hours delivering ashes, and I'm tired. But you know what? We're here for each other. And I know our brother Wade here has something to share with us because he shared something with our group this week. And Wade, my brother, I love you. Can you share with us your news?
Oh, well, actually, I was going to talk about something else, but I think what Etienne is referring to is over the last month or two, I've mentioned several times that my blood work on my cancer diagnosis crisis situation, call it what you will, the numbers that I was seeing looked like really good news, enough that they were cutting back on the versions of chemotherapy that I was doing. And that was the case up until Tuesday of this past week, when, along with all of this about losing David, I got news that my myeloma has very aggressively asserted itself again, and that's why I've been feeling so bad over the last month or two. And it taught me to trust my body and not so much the science numbers. I'm not giving up on science by any means, but I got a really strong lesson in trusting my body. And that news really locked it up for me that I could not come to the Bay Area and participate in the memorial that was happening for David. But on another note, what I raised my hand for is sort of a closing thing that David shared with me. I probably have a pretty unique relationship with David in that in the 3 or 4 hours that we spent together, neither of us consumed cannabis. Hello? How did that happen? But both of us were on oxygen, and I was having too good a time just talking to him, and he seemed to be enjoying himself quite readily. And I made an offer of a gift to him of some hash that a local maker had made, and I sort of heard that he enjoyed it. I don't know. He didn't consume any of it while we were together. But one of the things that he said to me that kind of went right to my heart, because we were talking about the role that he had played in our community and what part I had played in our community, and we were laughing back and forth about it. And then he sort of got serious in that way that he can, and just looked me dead in the eye and said, "Your work is to be you. Don't try to be me. Don't try to be anybody else. Be who you are, because that's what our community needs." And I believe that what he was really saying is he was saying that to all of us. Don't try and be somebody that you're looking up to. Recognize that someone that you're looking up to is someone you can learn from. And that doesn't mean you have to be like them. It just means that well, for me, what it meant with David was opening my heart so fully. So that was the message that David gave to me, was to be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else or something else. Don't get all heroic. He said, "You've done wonderful things, Wade. Just relax and be yourself." And somehow I really heard that. I'm still figuring out exactly what it means for me, but I feel it like the call of the wild, if you will, a reminder of what's true about our cannabis plant and her effects on our lives as individuals and as a community. So, that was what David shared with me. And I thought it was really unique that.
Hey, Wade,
Yes.
Can I try and
Who's trying to talk? It's cutting out. And if you have your camera shut off, you don't show up anymore on screen. So I can't tell. That's so weird.
I think it was Robert.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Oh,
And a little better. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little bit better, but it's not.
Can
It's
you hear
not
me
very
now?
good. It's a
Okay.
little bit better,
Well,
but it's not
I'll
very
just
good.
try and get this out. I
Sure.
suppose I'll try and get it out. That is that I spoke to him on the day that he saw you, and I said, "What was it like?" And he said, "Well, it was like
You cut out again, Robert. Sorry, buddy.
meeting my brother, man.
There we go. We heard that part.
And he said he was a little bit depressed. God, it's so fucked. Anyway, he said it was like meeting his brother. And that Wade was a little bit depressed, but that he was in good spirits enough to hear what he needed to hear. And it was like his brother, man. So dude, he was so happy to have met you. He said he had plans on going back to see you, and things just didn't work that way, man. But it's crazy, man, because we just don't know in this life, you know? And that's just it, Wade. Strength to you, brother. You're an inspiration and a giant. That's all, man. I hope I got it in, man. You know?
Yep, we got everything we needed to get from it for sure. We heard the important parts.
Cool, man. So cool. Cheers, Wade. I hope you feel better, brother. Stay strong.
Yeah. Well, I honestly am at a loss for words at this point in time. I don't really have a lot to say more. So if you guys have conversation you want to talk and about, then that's fine. I can sit here for another 40 minutes and listen. And otherwise, I'm just going to call it a day today. Just reflect on the last week and a half that has happened. That's been so intense. And I do believe next week I have a show planned with Stephen Philpott for the sports medicine episode. So that should be pretty interesting. I'll keep you guys posted about that. And otherwise, I definitely want to thank Heritage Seed Bank again for sponsoring today's show. Thank you, Heritage Seed Bank. You can check them out. Like I said earlier, a great way to support Chimera and Archive and Lit and Alien Labs and all sorts of great breeders. They're all found over at Heritage Labs. Sean's been a big support of Hash Church. He's been in the room and watching for the last, I don't even know how many years, but he's a good dude. So if you can, go show him some support at heritageseedbank.com. Otherwise, thanks everyone for watching. We had close to 400 people watching live today. Thanks to Fred Gardner and Dr. David Allen and Robert Carroll and Dr. Mark and Etienne and Chimera, Brian and Michael and Wade and Colin, the young guy who came on the panel today with the hat, that young guy. Thanks to him as well. And thanks to anyone that I've forgotten. And thanks to Skunkman Sam for touching so many of us in so many ways that we'll never forget, in a big way, especially with the knowledge and the information that you shared. So may the full melt bless everyone's bowl sooner than later. And until next week.
Super Bowl Sunday, Marcus.
Oh, and it's Super Bowl Sunday. So definitely pack yourself a Super Bowl. What kind of Super Bowl? I don't know. Maybe a bunch of different types of rosins, some dry sifts and some full melts, maybe even a little piece of Afghan on the top. That sounds like a Super Bowl to me. Is that what you mean, Dr. Mark?
Well, yeah, I mean, how cool that you have the athletic one happening next week, right? So
the week after.
The first week after the football season, when people sometimes get depressed because there's no football to watch anymore, right?
Well, we'll be Saturday or Sunday Hash Church, the sports medicine edition. So thanks everybody. Peace out.